Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 603, our Suicide Squad movie special. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge. I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, the Duke of the Sultan of Strategery, the indestructible, bridge-defying, appreciates that Sean always asks if he can swim before pushing him out of a plane. So says the elder statesman of the podcast, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to be talking about the recently released The Suicide Squad movie. We're actually going to do it watch-along style. So you're actually going to see a point in the show notes where it will reference that we are going to start our countdown, and we'll actually count you down. We tell you the number of seconds on screen and what we're seeing on screen, so that way you can watch along with us and enjoy watching the film. So it's deliberate. You can look in the show notes to see where that kicks off at. So if you want to skip our introductory conversation, just jump right to that. You can. And then we do a little concluding wrap-up as far as this film goes. But we've received a lot of positive comments when we do these little watch-alongs. And this is one of those movies that there's a lot to discuss. So I'm excited to talk Suicide Squad. Sponsoring this episode is DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Jim, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We got a really cool 7-issue miniseries, Aquaman and Green Arrow Deep Targets. The primary title is 50% off, only $1.99, but they also have a couple variant covers at 40% off at $2.99 and $2.39. So that's a cool deal. Plus, we also have you know me, I love 50% off. Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the complete omnibus hardcover, all 3 stories, 50% off, only $49.99. Thank you, DCBS.
That's a must-have for my shelf. I love that series. I love all 3 miniseries. So, having those in one complete volume like that these omnibuses are great. Actually, over at InStockTrades.com, speaking of omnibuses, I caught one that I missed, actually, and I'm doing it as an ad on this show because it ties so much into our recent conversations on episode 601. It's The Fourth World Omnibus by John Byrne hardcover. I have not read these stories, or if I have, it's been very broken. $75 regularly, it's 42% off, only $43.50. I missed this, and it's a hardcover. I love these hardcover omnibuses. And if I'm jumping to a collection, I like them in that hardcover format. I prefer hardcovers to trades myself. I like trades just fine, if there's no other option. But there's something about a hardcover. There's the longevity of it. I reread books, so I like something that's in a format where I feel like it's solid and it's got some substance and some longevity to it when it's an omnibus. Having that in that hardcover format, that's for me. And my love for the Fourth World. But this is stuff I've never read, and I love John Byrne's work. So I don't know how I missed all this stuff, but give it to me this way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, InStockTrades.com, for being your collected edition source. Jim, on that note, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We are going to go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the Suicide Squad. So if you haven't watched the movie yet, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some film.
Through the magic alchemy of nature's most awesome sources of energy, Ray Palmer, atomic physicist, becomes the atom.
Jim, before we jump into the discussion about Suicide Squad, have you seen Titans yet? Have you had a chance to watch any of Titans Season 3?
I haven't had a chance to watch any of it yet. I've just seen the clip that they're doing the Red Hood story, so I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to see this.
I'll try to stay as spoiler-free as possible. I've watched the first 3 episodes because that's what's out. Then Thursdays, there are going to be new episodes. I think that just kicked in this week. So I wanted to talk about it just because I binged watched them without the intention of doing it. You start watching an episode and then you're like, I'll just watch one and then, maybe I'll, watch the other 2, as the week goes on, that type of thing. I got so glued to this doggone thing that I just could not put it down. I watched all 3 episodes. So for people that are out there, if you haven't watched Titans before, you can jump on with Season 3 pretty easily. It gives you the little recap. It tells you where everything's at, and it really is, the next arc. It's like jumping on a comic book in a new arc. They give you everything that you need to kind of jump on board. I loved season 1 and 2. I will say one of the things that I do like about season 3 that I had some easiness with in season 1. In season 1 of Titans, there was this Dick Grayson that was not just extremely violent, but even just the way that he was talking to everybody and just how downtrodden he was. It fit the era of the life of Dick Grayson that they were trying to portray. It was those in-between years, like when he just left Batman, before he'd really gotten into the new Teen Titans that we saw in the Wolfman and Perez run. So they were really exploring an era that hadn't been fully fleshed out, so to speak, in an Elseworlds type story. So there is that Elseworlds component to the whole thing. What I love about this season 3 is there's a clear evolution for all the characters of time has passed. They have grown. They have matured. Dick Grayson now, to me, is the Dick Grayson that we know and love in the comics. There's some exceptions, and the one piece that I think there's a caveat in this, there is a level of violence in the show that is a little bit beyond what we would normally expect from the traditional comics, as far as the willingness to just break bones on an intense level. I will say this season has evolved, though. Like Dick Grayson, I really like Dick Grayson now. Whereas the first season, I didn't much like him. And I think you're not supposed to because of where he was in that era. And I feel like we've gotten to the point where I understand now how this is the Dick Grayson that we've always known and loved. And this is the part of his journey that he went on to get here. It's a very, very different kickoff to the season. I love the first 3 episodes are very Batman heavy. Batman universe heavy, I should say. The Batman they're exploring in this is very Elseworlds too, where we're exploring a Batman that has gone through and seen a lot and has to make some very difficult choices. And there is, in these first 3 episodes, there's an uncomfortable scene that I'm still like, I'm not sure how I feel about them going the direction they went. And I'm being deliberately vague because of the fact that I don't want to spoil it. And I can't wait till we can talk about it where we can spoil it. But it's one of those shows where it challenges you. I'm totally watching this show as Elseworlds, and that's how it's working for me. So when I'm telling you that I love it, I love it because I feel it's an Elseworlds. The same way I do like the Curse of the White Knight stuff that's going on, those stories. Yeah. I feel they're their own universe. They've got their own set of rules. And I think this has the same thing. And because of that, I'm really, really digging Titans. For what it is. I think they've captured the right amount of what I loved about Wolfman and Perez, while at the same time putting their own spin on it. I really feel like this works and like Jeff Johns wrote like one of my favorite episodes out of this batch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's an interesting sort of show. So I'm going to stop there, other than just my purpose of this is to remind people it's on. My next show I'm jumping to, now that I got caught up on that, is I'm jumping back to Stargirl, because Stargirl's back, which I'm really excited about. Season 2 of Stargirl's around. And I haven't seen a whole lot of advertising for it. So that's why I'm shouting it out, along with Titans. Just these are shows that are some of our near and dear favorites that are back. And Stargirl, I really, really enjoyed Season 1, so I'm excited to dive into Season 2 and really enjoy that. This couldn't be coming back at a better time, because I'm ready for something new to watch. I'm glad both of these shows are back. So, wanted to shout them out. Before we go into Suicide Squad. So, you and I got to see this together, which I'm making it sound odd. It's really not odd for us, but it is in the context of
the universe,
the pandemic right now.
Yeah.
You and I have not had a chance to really see each other much. We podcast all the time together, but we haven't had a chance to see each other much since the whole pandemic started. And just the chance to do something normal. We went to dinner together and got to go see the movie. Really enjoyed the experience of being back in the theater. Because I could have seen, we both have HBO Max. Could have watched this at home. I wanted to see this in the theater, and I'm really glad I did.
Oh, big time. This was definitely one of those where I'm very glad I left the house and actually went among people and, dealt with people who had to sit right next to me. I'm like, sure, come on, dude. But hey, it is what it is, and I survived it, and I'm very glad that I did it, because this movie needs to be seen on the big screen. This is one of those things where I really wish I had seen Wonder Woman 84 on the big screen, because I think that movie was another one that just, it looks like it was monumental enough with the music and the visual and all that stuff kind of going on that you need to have that big screen, that big booming sound. It was kind of neat with some of the audience reaction and stuff like that. So, you get that. It's kind of like, with wrestling, where wrestling in the pandemic has been fun watching, but it's better now that they have a live crowd. It's better that there's action, there's an atmosphere. Same thing with the movies. Even though we're not interacting directly with the people, on screen, it's when you hear the people around you cheering and laughing at a point, it makes it, that it's more dramatic and much more fun and, more funner for you. So I'm very glad we did that. I'm very glad that we, got to experience once again, and hopefully we can keep doing this and, the world doesn't go crazy again.
Yeah, I honestly, I will say this. One thing I noticed about going to the theaters again, because I've been going a lot, like recently. I've seen Free Guy just recently on the big screen. I went to go see Old. A lot of the movies that have come out that are like summer blockbusters, I've been wanting to see, because I'm a big theater goer. Actually, there's times where I think about, like, we ever get to the point where we don't want to do Raging Bullets or we have time to add another podcast. I would love to do a movie one. I'm a big film buff. I love all genres. I think it'd be fun to do a film podcast. And please don't panic and think that that's me saying I don't want to do Raging Bullets anymore. I love doing this podcast. That's one of the reasons why, like, I've got 18 other podcasts I would also adore doing. One of the reasons why I don't is because I love doing this podcast. But film is an area that's really, really important to me. In high school, I took a film class with Mr. Lowe, and it's one of my favorite classes of all time, because we started with the silent movies, the silent shorts, and worked all the way through till some movies in the 70s, exploring a lot of great directors and a lot of great storytelling that came out of that. This film is a great example of seeing one on the big screen, seeing it in that community. What I like about going back to the movie theaters right now is people overall seem to be really respectful of the pandemic, meaning that keeping distance from each other is kind of a thing people are naturally doing. Like, I'm not very often in lines where I feel like the person breathing down the back of my neck anymore, like, we did before the pandemic. And I honestly don't think that's such a bad thing. Like, we're all going to get to where we're going at the same pace, whether you are standing on my heels or you are a few feet behind me because you're being respectful of space, as long as we stay in the same order. That's really the key, right? During the pandemic, there's not a lot of people that are rushing to cut in front of somebody in line. So because of that, I think we're doing okay. But that's been my experience. I've enjoyed going to the theaters. There is this bizarre thing, though. So a majority of the movies I've gone to are where you can reserve a seat. So you see that map in front of you, and I've never been in a full house for any movie yet. And I'm talking about, like, I saw Black Widow opening night. We saw this opening night. I saw Free Guy opening night. Well attended. I didn't think it was a bad crowd. I thought it was a good crowd considering the pandemic, and a sign that we're getting some healthy movie theater audiences back. But it wasn't like every seat was taken. So I don't get this move. You can look at that map and see empty seats and say, I've got to plop myself down next to this person. Why? Just give one seat between the other person. It's your party, and then begins after one seat after the party that's next to you. I think that's like kind of an unwritten thing right now. I get it if it's a full house. Listen, the show is a sellout. There's no other seats. There's no way to keep your party together but to plop yourself down next to somebody. I'm all in on that. I get it. Respect. We don't have other choice there. But when you're in a place with a respectable crowd where you can easily plop you and your group down next to somebody, give a seat in between. And I would say that's not a pandemic thing. That's a thing in general. We all like to be comfy at the theaters. give us a little space. Like, you and I were sitting next to each other, but we were there together. You know, it's that's how that's supposed to be. For somebody to look at that map and go, I'm going to plop myself down next to them, because I know when I chose our seats, there was nobody sitting next to us. I don't get that. But that's a minor gripe. Other than that, though, I've really felt like going back to the theaters, doing entertainment in general. We were just at Geneva on the Lake yesterday. People are pretty respectful of, like, keeping distances and stuff like that. Very social. Everyone's saying hello, you know, do the usual pleasantries. You feel like this natural spacing that people are putting in, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Yeah,
it's funny, because I'm still going out for groceries, you know, and I'm not doing the delivery stuff because I don't like doing that. But I'm finding there's still, like, I go to Giant Eagle, and they're still giving you some leeway, some spacing, and there seems to be people are realizing, hey, this isn't going away, folks. This is going to be kind of our new norm. Give people space. Don't, as you said, you don't need to be breathing down the back of somebody. So it's. Definitely that was the thing. That movie theater, I was, and between the two of us, I'm a little bit more on the paranoid side on this stuff. So I was comfortable doing it. So if I was comfortable doing it, normal people should be fine.
I think you're touching on a key thing right now, though. Everybody's a little different. You have to be respectful of that. I try to be. You're right. Out of the two of us, I'm much more comfortable. I dove into, like, kind of going back to the movies and doing things like that faster, just because it was something that I really wanted to do. But I was also comfortable doing that. We've had conversations before about, like, doing things together, and you've been very open with me about when you were and when you weren't comfortable with moving forward with that. I think that's really important now. I think people have got to be in tune with that, but not just with people that you know and that you're friends with. I think you just got to be in tune with that when you encounter people that you don't know their health situation, you don't know if they're vaccinated or not, or their views on that. So you got to just really be respectful that everybody's situation is a little bit different. Their beliefs can be very different than yours, and that's okay. We don't all have to feel the same way about any of this, and that's part of being in a free country, right? That we all, but the respect piece, I think, has to be there. That's, to me, respect is kind of non-negotiable. You've really got to be respectful of others. And if we can, out of this pandemic, learn how to be a little bit more respectful of each other, it's not such a bad thing.
No, it's a good thing.
Speaking of respectful, let's talk about the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, nothing says respect like Suicide Squad.
Look at those strange little beetles. They look... Great neutron!
Jim and I are going to do this watch-along style like we've done in the past. So we're actually 35 seconds in. We're past any of the HBO Max kind of teasers. And if you're actually on the movie itself, we're 35 seconds in. It says, hello, this is Johnny Cash. I'm going to do a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get started. If that sounds good, Jim?
Roger.
3, 2, 1, go. I do love this opening atmosphere, with hello, this is Johnny Cash, and the Warner Brothers logo on the side of the tower. It's got something classic about it. I'm a big fan of these opening, like, DC teasers. Marvel does them too. PlayStation started doing it for their studio games. These things that show this thematic of we have these rich worlds with these lush characters. This is one of my Savant. This whole opening Savant sequence was really great. Because with a lot of these characters, I didn't know how much they were or were not going to be in this film. But him sitting there with the ball and the Crocs, you knew this was going to go somewhere, I just didn't know where. And he's a character that I wish had been featured even more in this film, because I love the actor. I love his portrayal. Obviously from Walking Dead, from Mallrats, I mean, he has been in so many great movies. But this bird, the second you saw the bird, you knew it was happening, right?
Oh, God, yeah. Well, with the markings on the wall, he knew exactly where to throw it, so it would bounce around and bam, hits the bird. Yeah. 100% saw that coming. And I was just like, man, that right there, great opening. great opening into who he is, what's going on, and once again, showing you we got an evil guy here.
Well, and it sets the tone.
Yep.
The Wall being brought in at this point, and her basically saying that, he thinks he's got certain rules, and her saying, it doesn't matter what you think, what your plans are, they have all changed now because I'm changing them. And there isn't a whole lot of dialogue going on here. We're plopping you in a chair, we're plopping an explosive in your skull, this is what you're going to do. I mean, the guy even calls him good dog.
Well, that was Ostrander. That was John Ostrander.
Right, yes. Oh,
so that's, I think, was awesome. The fact that the guy who created this whole thing,
yep.
they put him in the movie. So that, for me, I cheered with that one. I was like, yeah. But you're right. This portrayal of the Wall is awesome. There's only one scene in this entire movie that I didn't like how they portrayed her. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, it didn't even take away, because I understood why they did it. They did it to give an audience pop, to do it for possibly setting up for the next movie, if the rumors are true. But I really did I always love her portrayal of the Wall. Weasel, introducing him to his team. That, I'll tell you, I love this whole sequence where they're showing the team coming out, and you're thinking, okay, this is the Suicide Squad. This is going to be the team, and even introducing, going through all the different people, and I'll tell you, completely did not see where this was going.
I love what they did with this, because you're right. They really introduce a number of characters, and I started to really like them. I was like, okay, these are going to be characters. They're fun. They're quirky. I mean, this is just going to be great. And I loved that when Harley enters at this point, I've already felt like everybody else is comfortably going to be the team, and I just want to see their dynamic. Because that's the piece that they teased really well. I'm interested in the interpersonal dynamic of this team already. They've got me fully invested, which is such a great thing to do with where it goes.
Yes. And the support team placing bets on who dies, who lives.
Yes.
That, absolutely perfect. To be honest, I was thinking the same thing going into... You and I were kind of talking, hey, who do you think's going to make it, Because Suicide Squad's going to have a body count. Some of these people aren't going to make it.
I had no idea what they were going to, to the level they were going to do this.
Right.
Though.
Oh, big time.
And what
no idea at all.
What they tease here in the beginning, very early on, is they make you believe this is the team. So I figured there's one or two in that batch that's going to not make it. And, maybe a couple more by the end. But I really felt like this was the team that we're going to be following. The only thing I was thinking to myself is I knew in the back of my head that Idris Elba and John Cena were both in this. I'm like, when do they come in?
Right.
But I felt like they were somehow going to be integrated into this team. I didn't think that this team was going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, when I'm watching this, I initially was thinking, okay, Javelin and Pete Davidson, Blackguard. They're gone. They ain't making it. No way. I had money that I knew Harley was going to live. There's no way I knew they're not killing off Harley. And I had money that Boomer would live, and I had money on Savant. I was thinking those are going to be the three who survive, and Flag. I was thinking those four would survive, and I was thinking, okay, then they bring in the other team to support them. That's kind of where my mind was kind of going before we actually see what happens.
Yeah. I love the debate. I love the debate over what Weasel is. I've always wanted to meet a werewolf. And then Pete Davidson going crazy. You sat me next to a werewolf?
He's harmless. I mean, he's not harmless. He killed 27 children, but he's agreed to this, I think. I'll tell you, those are the funny moments that had me. We're chuckling throughout the movie here. Now, he just said he killed 27 children. We should not be laughing over it, but again, it's one of those weird, quirky things about the Suicide Squad that you do enjoy laughing about the villains and about the horrific stuff they do. And it's just, you want to... It's part of the humor of the movie. It's part of the funniness of what we're getting. And I don't know. It cracks me up seeing them just, going through and just the whole, just the build up to this team, and now they're hitting the water, they're gonna storm the beaches, and I'm like, man, what the heck? You're just waiting for it to go wrong, and the weasel wears it goes wrong.
Oh. So I'm laughing because this sequence leads to one of my favorite lines from Flag. Did anyone check to see if Weasel could swim? I'm poorly paraphrasing it, but I was just laughing because the look from Waller's face as she's looking over at her teammate.
Look
and
you never want to get from the wall.
No, you do not. Oh my gosh.
One of the reasons I love her as the Wall is stuff like that, by the way. It's not just, it's the nonverbal stuff she does as the portrayal of the Wall. She's an absolute perfect casting for the Wall. I 100% love her portrayal on it. That's why there's one scene in this movie that I don't like, but I understand why they did it. So it doesn't take away from my love of her as the Wall, but there's one scene I wish they would never have done. Yeah, and when we get to it, I'll point it out. But it's, I understand why they did it, so I'm not even going to bother with it. But I love this team, though. Once again, the Weasel's dead. The team moves on, and you're just like, okay, that's the first death. All right, check one off. Who's next?
So what's the right amount of humor and balance with drama and with action and with story? Because that's an interesting part when you look at this. It opens up, and there's a lot of humor at first. I mean, in this. And yet, I do feel this real sense of danger to this team because they do not have a lot of history of working together. They don't have a good synergy together. They don't have, in many cases, aside from like Boomer and Harley Quinn, they don't have a history of working together as far as from what I can tell. So you're looking at this team, and everything can go wrong. And right out of the gate, Pete Davidson cares getting up saying, hey, I'm here. I'm the guy that called you and told you we were coming. So now their whole mission that was supposed to be covert is the opposite of being covert. They've got an ambush waiting for them.
Yes. And the thing that cracks me up, when this started, I'm like, who's going to kill Pete first, the Wall or the bad guys? And it's the Army.
What I love that's brilliant, Pete Davidson's a big name, especially from Saturday Night Live, from the fact that he's led movies, things like that. I did not expect I expected Pete Davidson eventually to die too. I thought the character was going to because of just him being like a newer character for this. But I didn't think it was going to be this quick. Like this opening sequence and the amount of death on the Suicide Squad side totally threw me for a loop. I did not see this coming.
Big time. As I said, I 100% was expecting, a couple of these people to die. Did not expect slaughter on the beach. Opening salvo, opening sequence, and again, you gotta love Harley in this. Because the Wall's like, you guys can take him. She's like, oh, okay, and she goes into the offensive.
Margot Robbie's ability to deliver one-liners like that in a way that is so like. She's like this, it's like this crazy believability that like she really is Harley Quinn. And it's a hard character to make you believe like has a thought process. But I mean, like she's even fascinating now. TDK, the detachable kid, this incredulous. And I love that the hands as they're going across, it looks ridiculous, and they react at how ridiculous it looks because he's there slapping them, and they're looking at him like, "What on earth are you doing?"
Yeah, it's annoying. It's not any combat. Like I love how Flag's like, "I didn't pick this team." Now, Mongal was one I was hoping would survive.
I did too.
Longer than the opening salvo because she seemed like she'd be interesting, and once again, another character that you're just like, what the heck is going on here? Like, she's about to die. I'm watching her die, but Boomer getting hit with the shrapnel. 100% did not see that. I was completely shocked by Boomer dying. That was the big oh my god moment for me in this sequence. And
one of the things that you see from this is it's clearly lack of leadership. Nobody's listening to Flag. Nobody's listening to Waller. Waller's not really letting Flag be a squad leader in this. because she's shouting out orders and things like that, but there is no planning. Savant cracking right here, I get it. Like, you see all this and you just, like, everybody on your team except for a couple now has died. I see him sitting there saying, like, the only way for me to escape is do what villains normally do, right?
You're right.
By their nature, they don't have loyalty. They have survival instinct. His survival instinct is, I need to get out of here and live to fight another day. And it's... Seeing where I did not see Michael Rooker going out this way this quick.
No, I did not see him, head bomb going. And here's the other thing. I was actually thinking when we were watching this that this was a power of Savant, like kind of precognition.
Yeah.
And he was seeing this stuff happen, and then they would reflash and everyone would be alive. And that's actually how I thought this sequence was playing out. And then when it's very clearly... When she announced Team 2, I'm like, oh, no, they are actually dead. They were the diversion. The Wall knew that Blackguard sent the message. The Wall wanted Blackguard to send the message because they weren't the real team, which, again, it shows just the nature of the Wall that she would completely set up Flag that way. The others, no problem. But she sent Flag on the suicide team, not, Bloodsport. And I thought that for me was interesting that it shows just the level of camaraderie that the Wall and Flag now have.
They've always had kind of a hate tolerance relationship. My favorite Suicide Squad stories are where it addresses that piece that there's certain things that Waller's trying to do that Flag will believe in. But at the end of the day, Flag will have these great moments where he feels loyalty to the team, even though it's a hard team to feel loyalty to. Flag is a unique character. Nathan Fillion is a character. That poor... I love him as an actor. I love that he was in this. Him dying in the opening sequence was one where I'm like, no!
Oh, yeah.
But they've got quite a cast here. I mean, when you take a look at everybody who, even the people that are, killed in the initial opening sequence here, there are some really talented actors that are put in these positions. They really did a great job of casting this movie, and I think it's one of the reasons why it works so well. The characters are all dynamic and interesting, even the fresh ones. Do you wish that instead of creating some of the original villains that they'd used all established DC villains, or did you like the mix of some of the more well-known characters with some new and fresh ones? Like Idris Elba's character is a brand new character focused on in this.
Right. I like the new and established people. I like how, again, it's a good blend of that kind of stuff. And I don't know. Part of me wonders if they wanted, if they originally were thinking, instead of Idris Elba, go bring back Will Smith, and have him be this, or did they always intend to have a new character? I'm kind of wondering how they played this out. Because to be honest, you think of this guy, he very easily could have been Deadshot, Yeah,
well, I think the idea was if they're recasting when I think Will Smith wasn't going to be available for this, I think was what the issue was. And please, I'm poorly paraphrasing that because that may not be, in fact, there was some reason why Will Smith wasn't going to be back for this one. So rather than recasting the Deadshot character, they had a new character put in place for this. I love the actor. So Idris being in this, he's really a talented actor that I know a lot more from British television even, and he's just somebody, when he's in something, I will see it just because he's in it, because he's just always good. So
100%.
Having him in this, I would have been fine if they cast him as Deadshot, or the way that they did it, they basically kind of put the Deadshot archetype in with him.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with the way they did this too, because the character's interesting and compelling. And his relationship with Waller, where he's like, I'm out on this, until, boy, is she a snake to do this.
Yes, with the daughter. And again, similar characters, but obviously different. Like, his relationship with his daughter is much different than Deadshot's relationship. And the fact that, this was a great sequence of the worst father of the year here, dealing with his daughter. He's upset with her, not that she stole something, but that she got caught. And not only that, the language between the two of them is not exactly loving family going back and forth. And that is just it's one of those things where you're just like, this is horrific, but I laughed hysterically at how they portrayed this. Both of these two were just really, they did an absolute wonderful job of just the pure, raw emotion that they were putting out on this. I would love to talk to these two actors, the father and daughter, just see how before, during, and after, how they dealt with what... This is like pure anger on the screen. Yep. This is absolutely beautiful acting
and defensiveness.
This movie.
And defensiveness, because he protests too much. Yes. And I love the humanity of that, too, because like you see him calm down and realize this is going too far, and he's trying to like pull it back in his own way, and he's just getting it wrong. Because you can't take back what you just said.
Yeah. I like how he does, in his own way, is trying to be a good father by telling her, stay away from me. But that never works. That kind of stuff doesn't work. And she's going to go down that path if she doesn't have a positive role model to look up to. And I again, the sequence with him and his daughter yelling back with him and the wall, once again, beautiful portrayal of the wall. She never once loses it. She keeps calm, even when eventually he's going to have a knife to her throat. That's the wall. She's okay with it. And I love this stuff, man. This right here is just the absolute beautiful part of just the horrific nature of her.
It also influenced his conversation with his daughter, because he knew in that moment, the second that he saw her, that the wall set that up.
Yep.
Which it was part of his handling of his daughter, I think, in that moment. It's like recognizing, oh my gosh, now I've put her further in jeopardy because she is associated with me. It's such a interesting thing. This sequence is one of my favorite in the film because of the fact that it really just shows how cold she is.
Yep. And
you see that even her team, her people that work for her, are questioning her, like, that stuff about the kid, like, you wouldn't really, do that. I mean, that becomes a theme that goes throughout the movie. And, them realizing that Waller there's a reason why we call her the Wall, right? She's cold-hearted. Yeah. She will do everything to get the mission going. Yeah. We've seen other sides of her and other facets of her in the comics. And I think we've seen other facets of her even in the films, as they've started to flesh her out as a character. But boy, she does not crack. John Cena is brilliant.
Absolutely wonderful. Perfect casting on this. When I saw it was him, I'm like, yes, he is going to work for this character so well. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, right, this opening sequence with these guys, I love it. He's like, everyone has unique skill set. The exact same thing she said about him, she just said about Peacemaker. Hey, and I love he called her on it, and he's like, I shoot better.
There's a line here, too, that he says about, I use smaller bullets, they go in your bullet holes.
Yep.
That plays out later in the film.
I know.
Which is so brilliant to watch when you watch it again, to like see some foreshadowing of things. He actually gives the guy the idea.
Well, now, King Shark.
Sylvester Stallone.
I didn't realize it until we saw the credits afterwards that he was the voice for King Shark.
Yeah.
And then after my second watch through, I hear it completely now. I'm like, okay, I hear his voice. But before I didn't know it, when I was first thinking, I didn't see that. And
I love the
Ratcatcher 2, man.
We couldn't afford Ratcatcher 1.
What?
We couldn't afford Ratcatcher 1. I love the question there. She's great. I really like her as a character in this because she adds like this human emotional side. But again, these are villains. So we're seeing these villains that have, because of circumstance, they are villains for a wide variety of different reasons. And to a wide variety of different levels. Some of them have moral codes. Some of them care about things. Others don't. Others are pure mercenary. So, and everything in between. They're very, very interesting characters. Polka Dotted Man, oh my God, he became one of my favorites in this.
Yes, Polka Dot Man was awesome. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, I love this introduction of the team. This, again, we already had the one team that turns out to be just the distraction. Now we're getting the real Suicide Squad team, which cracks me up how they handled this thing,
It's... Weasel. I can't help it. He's licking the cage, and he's just looking at him and shaking his head. And probably really glad right now that he wasn't on his squad.
Yes. Now, the briefing, again, I liked how they handled this.
Yeah.
Again, giving us it's the way they did all this stuff they showed the introduction of the bomb. So if this is your first thing you know about the neck bombs now with Savant, now we're getting the breakdown of who these people are. This is a good storytelling ways to actually do it, but it's still adding to these characters, showing who they are, what they're kind of dealing with, initially showing Ratcatcher 2 being horrified at seeing the people hang. You're starting to get a groove of who she is. Peacemaker with taking diligent notes, about what the promises, what the team is, what the mission is, this and that. And then even the little funny moment later on with the King Shark with hand, I'm like, this right here, it's a simple scene, but it still tells so much of the story. It gives us the plot line, but also it's still furthering who these people are, starting to develop, our connection to them. It's one of the reasons I absolutely love this movie. I think this isn't just a superhero action movie. This is an actual movie. This has some really cool stuff going on with it.
Peter Capaldi, I loved as Doctor Who. Just a great actor. The idea that he was going to be in this as the Thinker just got me really excited. I liked seeing these at the Fandom. The cast together and their interactions and just how much fun they seem to be having with each other. There seemed to be a lot of chemistry with the cast that I get. This would be a fun movie to make. You get the impression with the loyalty that James Gunn kind of got from some of the cast of Guardians of the Galaxy that he's able to make it this kind of experience for the actors. And I'm really glad to see that because this... And during the pandemic, when you need a summer blockbuster, you want something that's fun, but yet... in this case, we get a lot of different kinds of superhero movies now. And these movies, this Guardians of the Galaxy, things like that, I like them because there's a different kind of exploration of comics. I wouldn't want all of my comic movies to be like this. I'm talking about with the kind of humor that's in this. But this one, I love how artsy it gets. Now, we're like a lot of the thought balloons. Kind of organically appear like the way they do in comics. They incorporate them into the sets in ways that are really clever. I loved the styling of this. There is a visual styling of this film that really worked for this and made it feel fun. Again, like I'm saying, I would not want every comic book movie to be like this. This cast, this type of movie really works, and it's a strong cast that can deliver the right mix of comedy with endearing characters. Because, by the end of this, I care about so many of these characters. There's a few of them that I did want to see get killed. But just because, that's kind of what you expect in Suicide Squad. Like Pete Davidson's character, I think you're supposed to.
You knew he was going to,
Yeah. But this cast, that's walking down the beach right now, I actually wanted to see every single one of them survive.
Oh, big time! And the funny moments with Peacekeeper with the beaches, if I had to, if in the name of freedom, no problemo, I'm like, man, little funny moments like that, and going back and forth between the actual team 2, and then going back to team 1, so we can see the final status. We can see the people who live, who die, and great usage of this. And again, another classic, wonderful Harley moment when she finds Javelin. And she's like, carry my Javelin. I love this moment between them because, again, you get this serious moment of, carry it forward. and then he dies.
This whole sequence is one of my favorite humor moments too, because he does the classic like dying where like your last words like left, and I love how she's slapping him like, you carried for who, for what, what the heck? She doesn't even, to the point where she's like, she right now is like, she's been captured and she's not worried about that. She's like, he gave me this doggone javelin and like, I'm supposed to carry this, but for who? For what?
Yep.
She is so... I can watch her... Like, I loved her in the first Suicide Squad movie. I loved her in the Birds of Prey spinoff. I love her in this. Typically, any movie that she's been in outside of that, I think she's just a very talented actress. And being able to pull off comedy in a film and make it believable is something that's very hard to do. She is one of the reasons why I've become such a Harley Quinn fan, because I think she's nailing the character perfectly. Kaylee Cuoco does a very nice job on the animated series, too, of capturing Harley Quinn, to the point where I hear both of their portrayals when I read the comics now. I really enjoy Harley Quinn's appearances in media because of it. There's also the actresses, two of them have played Harley Quinn in the Arkham games, and they've also brought this character to life. And I feel like it's interesting how, in going back to the original Batman the Animated Series, this is a character who I didn't realize how much I was growing to like until now. I am a huge Harley Quinn fan now, and I could not have said that a couple years ago. I don't think I got the character the way that I do now. But now I love everybody's portrayal of her. Polka Dotted Man's powers and understanding... I like that they gave a layer to that, because I didn't remember that being a thing. I think they're adding something new to the character. The fact that he's got to release the power at a certain point in time, or else it like starts to overtake him. It's like an illness, you know, that it's a genetic illness.
Yeah, well, he's been infected with a virus, and it will eat him alive if he doesn't expel it. And I like that. I thought that was kind of a neat little twist to it, because I didn't know. But I tell you, King Shark almost eating Ratcatcher too, I think was awesome. And her sleeping through the entire process, and Sebastian the rat being the one to try to, hey, look over here, she's being eaten.
John Cena walking out in the tighty whities too, and then Idris Elba calling him out on it and just saying, like, you know, it was such a great thing. This leads to an endearing moment here about friendship.
Yeah.
And, you know, with Ratcatcher, where you get to see, I like her relationship with the rats. She is, like, when it comes to animals, willing to become friends with them. So because of that, when she looks at King Shark, she's trying to get to the core of, like, why do you do this? And do you consider us friends? And I'm willing to take a risk and trust over friendship that comes up later in this film. I really like the development of those interpersonal relationships. It's one of the things I really liked about Guardians. And I keep referencing Guardians in this because James Gunn made both of those movies. I feel like this is not a Guardians clone at all, but yet it has... What I really loved about Guardians was strong character development, strong character interactions. More than even the story that's going on, the larger story, it's the interpersonal relationships from the characters that are developed in sequences like this that make me love his films. I care about these characters, and they're characters that at the start of this, I didn't really care about. Like, because some of them are characters I don't know. Or I know from brief appearances, I don't know them really well. So this kind of character development interaction is why James Gunn's now become a name. If James Gunn's making a movie, I want to watch a James Gunn film. Because I think you love the Guardians movies just as much as I do. I love this. Again, I know what I'm getting when I see a James Gunn film, and these kind of character moments are gold. Because you could have this same story set in an action film that can be a satisfying action film where you're like, wow, that had a lot of action, a lot of blowing up, things like that, but not the substance. It's where the humor, like, you can sit there and say, well, this movie has a lot of humor in it. Yes, but it means more when you have these character moments. Shaking hands, those type of things that you know have come from You know, you are a little idiot. That humor means a lot more when you see that she genuinely means it. She genuinely is trying to develop a friendship here and is trying to take the step to trust that friendship, even though she could possibly die. The guy almost ate her. You don't come back from that.
Well, and I'll tell you, and I love how she truly means that, if I'm to die gambling on love, then it's a worthy death.
Yep.
That, for me, was just a great statement of who she is. It shows why she really shouldn't be on this team.
Right.
She's not an evil person. She shouldn't have a bomb in her neck. She was robbing a bank. She was using the rats to rob the bank. Okay, yeah, stealing's wrong, stealing's bad, but she's one of those villains that she very easily could turn that somehow into a superpower. Well, turn that into, use it for forces of good. And I think that's one of those interesting things when you have those type of villains on the Suicide Squad. She is just a really cool kid who kind of has had life, smack her around a little bit. Polka Dot Man, same kind of deal. He's not really evil. He just has this power that he can't control, and he's got mental issues. But it's, I love, that's one of the dynamics on this team I love, especially just this opening sequence where they're going to rescue Flag, and they're dealing with these bad guys. And I'm using air quotes around rescue and bad guys, but seeing King Shark just sneak up behind the guy, it's about to be num-num time.
I was glad to see Gail Simone's name in the credits, and so many other creators. I'm not diminishing anybody that was in there, but I think they went through a pretty nice list of people that I'm hoping they pulled from their work, and it's kind of apparent that they pulled from their work in this, because, stories like Suicide Squad, Secret Six, crossovers between the two, and stuff like that were stories that really worked because of the deep understanding of the character relationships and what's different about being a villain versus being a hero. Your motivations are different, but yet, even if you have those motivations, there still is a need for friendship and sometimes family that comes out of this, depending on who you are. Just your ethics are incredibly different. And it leads to, the competition between these two right now, it's almost like two brothers going at it.
And they're competing who can kill better, who can have a cooler kill. I love this sequence as they're just calmly walking through. Even when he took the axe and just multiple stabs on him. I'm like, man, this is what you call, this is a great sequence. And it was funny, the first time watching it, it didn't dawn on me, these people aren't military. It was funny because I didn't realize it, just watching it thinking, okay, these are the bad guys. Like, wait a minute. These are women and children. Not children, but we've got female. We've got non-military looking people. What's going on here? It's like it didn't. If you thought about it, you would realize what's going on. But that's one of the things I liked about this sequence, where you kind of don't have that moment.
As they're talking about this little tete-a-tete between the two of them, you see that there's a respect here that. I love that now it's all about style points, right?
Yeah.
Between the two of them, and they're both trying to do it. Non-lethal, you lose. Exploding compression bullets, and I mean,
boom. Yep.
No one likes a show off unless their showing off is dope. I'm just like, I'm laughing at this because he goes back and he goes, "That's true."
That's true.
I mean, just a great interchange between the two of them that really was something that, if you didn't have that, it's what makes great action movies. You and I both grew up, in the Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Chuck Norris era of action movies where dialogue is really critical to making that work. And you've got to really be taken to that moment where these extreme, excessive explosions and violence is happening on a level that you can't imagine happening and working. And it only works, it's kind of fitting that Sylvester Stallone's in this, right? Because he's from that same era, the Rambo movies, which were so awesome.
Yeah.
This movie is very reminiscent of what works with all of that. the situation with Flag here is where we get the reveal that you're talking about of the fact that they saved my life. They just took down this entire group, and there was zero reason to do it.
Exactly. Like, why didn't my people alert me? People, there weren't any. We didn't see any. Yeah. And then, just even poking on it, like, I turned them into my mother and killed them all. And then King Shark coughing up a finger. I was like, man, this right here is sorry, we just killed all these people.
It does show, though, like the lust for revenge that somebody has, right? She's at this point where she hates them. She thinks they're terrible for what they've done and really, truly hates them. But she's got a bit, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. She can look at this and kind of go, listen, if there's a way that you can gain revenge for what was done to my family, I would side with the devil himself for this purpose. She's kind of in that zone where none of this matters anymore to her except for her thirst for revenge. So is that rat waving at me?
Again, little funny moments like that, because you got this Flag having this very serious moment of like, hey, we can work together, we can do this thing. Is that rat waving at me? Yeah. Why? He's friendly.
So good. So her offering help at this point is kind of like, listen, I don't care what happens to you in this scenario. You'll get help as long as you take them down, and it accomplishes what I need here, which is my revenge on them. She could care less about them, because I do think if there was somebody she'd care about, she would be more like, you got to be careful going in there. I don't want to lose anybody else or anything like that. She's very content that these people could be lost in the shuffle and does not really care, right. Except if they can somehow help with her accomplishing her goals. So I love the visual look of the Thinker.
Yeah.
And his own kind of cockiness, because he understands right now that he's holding all the cards. So they can sit there and try all they want to boss him around, manipulate him. But Project Starfish is his thing. If they really want the Starfish to do anything for them, the only way it's going to happen is if they have his backing and support. This is a pretty critical piece here, too, because this gets into a whole moral and ethical thing about when we come across weapons or something that can be weaponized. What is right for us to explore and what is wrong for us to explore? This gets into really who are the good guys and who are the bad guys in this, in what they were trying to do. And those scientists that were on board there, are they victims of just following orders? Or were they ethically trying to explore more of this? Like, I want to know the backstory of this even further than what the film showed.
Yeah. Oh, big time. And again, it's the astronauts. They brought it in. They shouldn't have, but they did. And then they're in the room, so now they are part of the Starfish. So right. It was kind of a neat moment of, you see one level of people making mistakes, and again, I love the fact where this goes, where the true mission of the Suicide Squad isn't to save the day; it's to keep the U.S. involvement out of it.
Correct.
And that's something I love, because they're laying the groundwork here, and I didn't really even see that until they actually revealed it. Those U.S. Astronauts who brought him in, and the Starfish ended up down here, and he's been working on it for 30 years. But you don't get all the full pieces together until later on. That it was the U.S. who wanted him to experiment. The U.S. doing all the evil stuff that he wanted. And I loved how that plays out in the story. We get a great intro of who the characters are, and then as the movie goes on, we're seeing more and more. And it was a cool, again, it was cool foreshadowing of what's going to happen.
Meanwhile, Harley. Oh my gosh, I love putting like the narration piece into the set like that was just a great design choice. I honestly would be happy to see an entire movie of Harley Quinn. We kind of did with Birds. Well, I wouldn't say we kind of did with Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey was another ensemble. She fits in any kind of movie, whether she is supporting cast, lead cast, as a character. Because these sequences where you get to see her kind of shift between, like, this angry, dirty, I'm not going to give up fighting moment to this moment where, like, wow, now I look like a princess.
Yeah.
And yet she never drops being Harley Quinn.
She's still very much her. And I think that is, and again, it's not just dialogue, it's nonverbal, it's that look in her face that she gets sometimes that just to me is so perfect. You know? It's got a little bit of a goofiness, a little bit of a craziness to it, a little bit of a scary, horrific, killing machine. And she does that beautiful blend of all that where, especially in this movie, you really see how dangerous she is. And I absolutely loved it. Love her portrayal, this movie and all the other movies. I'm 100% a huge fan of her.
The interesting part with him is he is an interesting character.
Yeah.
Because they chose a guy who's obviously handsome and suave and looks like a leader and a politician, where you get why, like, people would be drawn to him, and including Harley, and his presentation of his goals and what he's trying to do, you can see why somebody would get behind them and why they feel he's awesome. Because if you go to his place, you see the power that's really apparent there. I mean, look at that spread on the table.
Yeah.
This is pretty good living right now at the moment. And, they've got to show this montage pretty quick because you got to, like, why would she seemingly go all in on this guy? And you kind of get it very early on. She just came from that pit, right? And from almost being killed on to, like, now this, being treated the way that she wanted the Joker to always treat her, right?
Yes.
Because you can make an argument. Joker actually, at times, Joker was able to manipulate this need of hers. So now, this guy's kicking it up seemingly to 11, right? By giving her this fantasy world that she's looking for. And oh my gosh, have they done a great job making this into, like, almost a music video kind of montage. Yes. And he's quickly, for this extreme personality of extreme emotion, he's coming on with, like, this stream of justified motion of, I want you to marry me. And there's reasons why. It's what it'll do for me politically, but now getting to know you, getting to be with you, getting to see just how connected we are. But him recognizing his own faults, that, like, hey, people view me as an unacceptable leader. Because I'm kind of separate from them. Have you shown them the birdies?
The birdies, yeah. Little moments like that with Harley. Because here he's sitting there talking about, and even the Culture Maltesians. It's like, oh, Culture Maltesians. Little bits like that of her and her humor. Yep. But again, I loved how he was playing this off, because I'm sitting there watching this going, yeah, okay, and he did a great job. I don't know how much of this is him trying to manipulate her, how much of this is him really being this guy who actually wants to be with her. I don't know. And I think that for me was a beautiful layer of this, because the fact that he's just being completely, open, and I did air quotes around open, because just saying how at first it was a political thing. Now you're absolutely perfect, and feeding to Harley's just her impulse, lack of impulse control. That's one of the big things about Harley, and that's one of the things you got to play off of. And he completely did that and worked it and played her like a fiddle. And I was like, this is absolutely brilliant. What's going on here? And I love just how this played out. And I'm thinking, man, this is going to be interesting seeing how is Harley going to work with him against the Suicide Squad, but she's got a bomb in her neck. Can the thinker get it out? All these different things are playing in my head as these sequences are going. Of course, I didn't realize where it was going to go, and where it goes was absolutely perfect.
Well, because she winds up here because of her extreme emotional personality, her need to latch on to that thing that draws her in. But it is very much reminiscent of like how intense it was with the Joker. And she sees the red flag. He says one thing too many. Yeah. I don't know that she's ever going to be capable of having a truly healthy relationship after what happened with the Joker. There's always going to be something that screws up that relationship. In many ways, I think her relationship with Ivy that they're, experimenting with both in the comics and in animation, I think probably is the healthiest relationship for her because of the fact that I think Ivy maybe truly understands what it's like to be through similar things to what Harley is.
Here's the thing with Ivy. Ivy legitimately cares for Harley. All these other people have wanted something from her. And that's the key. That's the key with Ivy. Ivy actually legitimately cares for him. Like this guy, he really does want Harley Quinn, part of the political stuff. He probably enjoys having the time he had with her, but in his head, he really is thinking about the big picture. And he's not anymore.
I love that she didn't know if there was actually a bullet in that.
Yeah.
Or that it even worked.
Yeah.
It was all just typical Harley being reactionary. And that's kind of her. She's a storm. And I love that this portrays that storm of who she is. I like that there is a twisted morality to her of sorts.
Yes. Oh, big time. And I love how she's having this conversation with him as he's dying. And she's even saying, you would be berating me, but I'm like, hey, I can't lead you. Guys like you just don't let me go away quietly. So the only thing I can do is kill you. And I was like, man, this, again, it shows the craziness of Harley, but it also does show it makes sense for her to do this. It makes sense for her to do this. Whereas anybody else, I don't know if this would have been the smart move, but for Harley, Harley doesn't have any remote fear that you or I would have. There's absolutely zero fear in her, so there's no limits on what she thinks she can accomplish. And that's one of the things why she's able to be such an amazing fighting machine we see later on, and how she's able to endure torture, because in her mind, there is no limits to what she can do. And that is an interesting thing about the character. And that's, is a true nature of humanity. If we could get rid of our fear, get rid of our limitations, the first battle is in your own mind. She's 100% gotten rid of all those limitations and fears.
Or is it more that the psychologist in her embraces them? Like, she, in a weird way, doesn't avoid much. She reacts to it, like, in extreme ways. Like, right. The more extreme things get, the more extreme her reaction, which it's an interesting sort of, like, she seems to like being a part of everything. Everything is exciting to her, from the smallest things like the birds, straight on through to the largest, biggest explosions, or the starfish. Like, everything has this sense of wonder to it that she takes to a different level. Like, other people look at the birds and go, those are really nice birds and all that type of thing. You're awesome. If people seen the birds, the people don't care about the birds, Harley. That's kind of the point.
He's grabbing people in the middle of the night, feeding them to the beast. It's not going to be, the birds aren't going to change it.
Yeah. Oh, I polka dotted man. He's somebody in this one that I'd almost watch a movie of him, and because of the fact that every time he turns people into his mom, because that's how he sees the world, you recognize that any one of them could be killed at any point in time if they address him the wrong way, because he will connect them to his mom. Like, in that moment, you see that every person on the team is a potential target of Polka Dotted Man and his irrational view of the world. he is constantly been since his childhood when he was experimented on to become what he is. His view of the world is that the person who should have nurtured him the most, who he should have trusted the most, violated him. And he hates them and the world for it. He hates his place in the world. Like, he wants to die. He feels like no remorse over anybody else dying. When they talk about end of death, there's no sense of self-preservation from him. The only time you see any joy is when he actually later on thinks he's a hero.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're like, wow, like, he's finally hit this point where he has some sense of, like, value and self-worth, and you see where that goes. But this is great.
Yeah.
My favorite sequence right here is when you see the whole team looking like his mom, including King Shark.
Yes.
That was just such a brilliant scene because we got to see the world through his eyes. And just how twisted his mental state is. He's somebody that you can never trust because of the fact that he's just that far gone.
Well, and earlier, Ratcatcher 2 was saying, when Peacemaker was going on his thing, about where he would kill every man, woman, and child for freedom, for peace. She's like, I thought you were the crazy one. He goes, I am. He knows what's going on in his mind. He knows it ain't right. And that's one of those things. He's that guy who walks that very fine line of any minute now things can go horrifically wrong.
It's also his sense of identity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, he identifies with that's who he is. And embraces that as an identity for himself as well, which is interesting.
It's funny when the team is meeting their bus driver friend, Milton. It was funny because as he's
sitting there Milton.
That Milton. But absolutely loved just you knew all those people were about to die. Leading up to it, you knew what was going to happen, and I love just the waiting for it, and then boom, it happens. And especially just that sequence when Shark comes in and num.
Shark is awesome when he comes in. Honestly, Sylvester Stallone could not have played a better role in King Shark. I know it seems like kind of a strange thing to say, but it's how you play it off. Even this fake mustache bit. This is like one of the greatest comedy segments in the whole thing, where they're organically playing along with this whole thing. Yet from what we've seen, King Shark is incredibly dangerous. He can take a lot of damage. He can potentially eat any one of them at any point in time. He keeps coming back for more, even though he's been through some horrible things. Yet there's an endearing quality to him as well. That's a tough balance to achieve in a film, right? Where you don't want him to be so silly that now you've lost all sense of danger with him, but yet you also don't want him to be so dangerous that you don't understand why Ratcatcher 2 would even want to be friendly with him. There's a balance that was achieved with that character that I think was just really well done. Yeah. He always wants to be near you.
Yeah, the rat. Sebastian's awesome. I tell you, they do a lot of cool stuff with that rat. And I don't know how much of it is CGI, how much of it is an actual trained animal, or what they've got going on with there. But they went overboard in a good way with the rat. I love those little sequences like that. Earlier when he's giving him a leaf just to show him he's thinking, and then later he's offering him the piece of jerky. There is just a really cool. It's a funny, cool dynamic that they got going on between those three.
Isn't that where CGI is great now? Because it's gotten to be so good that you, in many cases, when it's really well done and used in this type of fashion, you can't tell what's CGI and what's real.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty critical. It also says a lot for the actors, because in that case, whether you're working with a trained animal or you're working with CGI, you've got to act off of that that's what's in front of you is really happening.
Yeah.
And they take you to that sense of disbelief at the moment. King Shark's the same thing. You have to believe that there is a walking, talking shark in front of you.
Land Shark.
And those sequences are, because King Shark obviously is all CGI. And when you look at that, it's like, oh my gosh, have they nailed that? Because it looks like he's there, it looks like he's part of the team. I never lose that sense. And there's some really human emotional moments where you see him staring out of the window and you kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah.
The whole daddy issues thing between... I love what's going on here between Ratcatcher and Idris Elba's character, where you're like, you know he's gotten issues with his own daughter and the relationship there. And she's telling her backstory here. And he's like at first kind of dismissive of her as being like this dopey girl. Then he hears the story and he's like, oh, wow. There's so much for me to unpack and connect with here with my own relationship with my daughter. And maybe there's a chance for me to start getting it right. Maybe I can learn to be the person that I ultimately want to be. And he's trying to get there. And it's such an interesting sort of thing when you see this like heartwarming story of like her dad with this like rat experiment where these rats are like cuddling them in this cold weather so that way they don't freeze and die. And she's got this real endearing love of her father. And that, you know, he tried to protect her up until the end. And ultimately, you know, she's got this connection to that. Even John Cena's character is like hearing this story and feeling emotions towards her. Like this team is developing a bond that it's so sad that they are who they are, because I think given more time and in the situation they're in, because you imagine if they were given like 3 movies together as a team, I think by the end of it, some of these events would have played out differently if they'd had a longer time to bond. Because I think John Cena in particular would have had to question his own code or his sense of identity in interacting with some of his teammates if this went on further. Because you can tell he cares in those moments. He's laughing and chuckling and, you know, making his own little snide comments, but he's slowly starting to crack in his, what was before, like this sense of superiority to all of them. I mean, he's starting to like them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I love, you know, just again, that whole connection between, you know, that Bloodsport and Ratcatcher 2 have because of the father's love. Her father was an imperfect man who had this addiction, but he 100% loved her. And you have you have Bloodsport, who is an imperfect man who has this horrific relationship with his daughter, you know, and it's that whole he protests too much kind of thing, where he wishes he had this great relationship with his daughter. You can see that kind of on the borderline, you know. So I love how those two immediately connected, and you had that immediate moment. And I love how they even say, he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna make sure you get out of this alive." She's like, "No, I'm gonna make sure you get out of this alive." And those are those are the kind of tender moments that I was like, man, this is cool.
Yeah, this hanging out at the bar shows some of the emotional piece that we're talking about. Because I love that he orders drinks for the whole crew and encourages, you know, easy Inspector Gadget, a little drink never hurt nobody. Yeah. But in that sequence, he also takes care of the rat. I thought that was such a cool.
That was a neat little thing there. I was like, I chuckled at that one. I thought that was kind of cool. He's like, hey, don't forget the rat. You know? And I was like, man, you know, that right there is a cool moment. And again, a nice usage of the rat, a nice usage of this team dynamic, you know, and it's giving you this kind of like, things are going to turn out okay for this team. And I love the fact that how this plays out in the end.
That's, I think, one of the things that I like about this, and it's where it starts to separate it from Guardians of the Galaxy, right, and why it's a unique story. It's that character development that we're talking about, but this is not the Guardians. These aren't heroes. Right. These are villains. And ultimately, they've got years and years of experiences, each one of them unique, that has caused that piece. Like Dubois and Flag here having this like bonding moment. Even the dancing part. It's all great. But in the end, what you see here with Polka Dotted Man, where he's dancing there and every one of them's his mom, it makes you realize that, yes, we're seeing these cool and endearing moments with them, but they still are the same messed up people that they are.
Yes.
And that's ultimately going to be part of the problem here. There's not enough time for them to get past this, to get to the point where they could wind up on the other side, which is unique to this team. And kind of the tragedy of the Suicide Squad, right? Because you see the potential and you want it. Like, we're rooting for it. Even though they're villains, you recognize that that's not the whole story. There are things about these people to like, in spite of the fact that they've been in their lives, all in unique ways, terrible people.
Yes.
But that's not their whole story. It's a interesting dichotomy. It's just, I love this. Milton develops a certain sense of, I don't know if loyalty, or maybe it's that he doesn't trust the police there, and he's, this kind of whole rebellion piece where it's like, okay, the police really are the enemy, the military, I should say, in this place are the enemy. So he wants to let his people know what's going on. He wants to help them, but he can't because of the timing. So I liked seeing that little bit with him.
Yeah, well, he's part of, he thinks of himself as being part of this team now. And he's not really, but for him, this is his team. He's got to help them out. And I like that.
For the resistance, too, though, we got to be clear on that. He's trying to help the resistance.
Yeah, he is resistance, yeah.
Dubois and the Thinker and the team reacting to what's going on here, they're trying to do their extraction. They're trying to make this happen. Then things go wrong. This shows there's members of this team that have a different... They know they're survivors. So now they have to move on the fly. And as survivors, they have to figure out a way to get out of a situation that they shouldn't be able to get out of. And Dubois... You see why Waller is brilliant. She made him the squad leader. Why did she make him the squad leader? Because she knew that he can handle situations like this. He and Flag having that kind of unspoken thing between them shows a level of respect between the two of them for their abilities that are working. Dubois knows the people that can get out of there. And having the two, Polka Dotted Man and Ratcatcher, get him out of there, like, you two are quirky enough that you can sneak out of here and nobody's going to really question you. Whereas everybody else, Cena, Flag, him, are immediately going to be questioned as being the Americans.
Yep.
He did a great job of recognizing this was the only way to extract the Thinker and make this work so that way they could get out. I really loved the play here. It made sense. It strangely made sense as an escape tactic.
Well, you think about it, with them drawing all their attention, with them drawing all the attention to them, say, we are the Americans right here, that gives them the opportunity to slip out.
Yep.
And I like the fact that Thinker immediately recognizes, you're not the alphas of this group. So he's immediately thinking in his head, I can play this. I can get away with this. I can get away from these people. And it's, again, you see strength in these characters that, Ratcatcher 2 really steps up because to her, those are her friends being taken.
Yep.
She's got to protect her friends. And I love that, again, immediately there's always that connection of loyalty. There's always already that kind of semblance of team for her.
Dubois made a strategic choice here because he's also sitting with two people that he knows can follow his lead on what he's going to do here. He knew they could escape. He did not, in this moment, he did not get captured for the purpose of thinking that this is going to go down where they're being taken where they want to go. He was waiting for his moment, picking his spot. He knew how this was going to play out, at least on some level. And he knew he was with two people that could back that play. This was really, really cool. Talk about it. This is all telegraphed, but sometimes you need for that to be. You need to believe that these characters were confident. They knew where this was going to go. I needed to believe in Dubois here. This whole how to kill a man with a single blow kind of thing was such a great line.
Well, and I love how he's like, it's impossible. It's a matter of chance. You can't reel it for certainly. He's like, yeah, that's what they say. They? Amateurs. You know, because all three of them, you 100% knew they could kill a man with a single blow. Because all three of them have that same level of, skill and just how training and whatever you want to call it, pure raw nastiness, that all three of them have that same level of, that same understanding. And I thought that for me was absolutely perfect. I was like, man, this is wonderful.
I love the chaos of this. Where, he shot the driver, or I'm sorry, he shot the passenger. Or did he shoot the driver first?
He shot the driver.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And then the passenger's trying to get a hold of the vehicle. He's taking him out. They are now free falling. I mean, there is nobody driving the ship. And Cena can't reach the wheel from where he is. I loved the intensity of this, that, you're inside an armored vehicle trying to gain control of it, and you can't. I love that the answer here was they couldn't. This was a chaotic escape. It was an extreme escape. And it was messy and ugly. And that, to me, that's seeking an opportunity, right? It was a risk. It was dangerous. That opportunity was the only way they were going to escape. And I liked that it wasn't clean. It just felt like that's how it should happen, if it's going to happen.
Oh, big time. 100% is how it should be played out. And, again, you hit it exactly on the head, where chaotic and just extreme and everything, that it was like, yeah, this was kind of the plan, but it was always an improvise as we go plan.
Right.
He knew he'd have a moment where the three of them would take out the guards, then they'd take out the driver, and then they'd get out. That it didn't lay out exactly that they'd roll down the hill, that they'd, the truck, any of that stuff. All he knew was with the three of us, we'll get out of this. And then the fact that they're sitting there talking, okay, we go on to the Unheimer thing. No, Operation Harley. We don't leave ours behind. I love this Harley sequence coming up. It is my favorite one. This is my favorite sequence in the movie. Starting from her being tortured, and just the level of, she's playing, again, she's completely playing them. 100%. Mm-hmm. Yeah, shit's hurting. Yeah, there's some pain going on, but she knows she's got to play them.
Yeah, and a lot of pain. I'm sorry, I'm validating what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of pain. You don't want to dismiss, she's going through a lot of torture here in order to accomplish her goals. And it adds more strength to what you're saying, because I agree with you on this sequence. It's a strong sequence, because she had a plan here. And in her craziness, a lot of times you forget that she's incredibly smart. And this is one of those sequences that shows that it's not all with her chaos. There is strategic planning with her, too, that also goes along with that. That's what makes her dangerous, is her ability to jump from chaos to something that is so well crafted and so planned out.
With Sean, with Harley, it's strategery. Come on. If there's anybody that it fits, it's Harley.
Yes. She's oozing with strategery.
Big time. And again, I love the fact that she takes the pain just enough to convince them that when she passes out, they believe it. She 100% is completely conscious this entire time. But she knew I had to take a beating, because if I go out on the first punch, they'll never think it's real. So she knew they had to take it to an extreme level to knock her unconscious. And that, for me, is, again, it shows just the level of her understanding of people. She immediately assessed these guys. She knew, if I pass out, the one's going to leave, I'll leave one alone, I'll kill him, and I'll escape. That was her plan the entire time. Take a beating, get the one to leave, and then kill the remaining guy. She knew how this was going to play out. And I love the fact that, this shows how amazing Harley is. The character and the actress playing her is just absolutely brilliant. I love, love, love this sequence.
The one piece, too, here is she also knows that if she does not get out at a certain point in time, they are going to cut off her fingers. They are going to do all these other things. So she's got an opportunity, and that's where Harley's an opportunist. This plan, look at the look in the eyes showed this is calculated. This was planned. She, in that moment, is completely committed to the action that she's taking. She knew when she was going to grab him. She was waiting for him to turn just so she could do this.
Yep. I wonder how much of this the actress did. How much was her? How much was her stunt double?
I don't know.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, if this was mostly her or all her, wow, that's impressive.
Here's the thing: the team of them. If it was the stunt double too, the team of them deserve a ton of credit for putting this together because the acting with the facial expressions and the delivery, it just was so spot on.
Yeah.
Even afterwards, the reaction afterwards. It's not just the torture sequence. This is one of my favorite sequences because you wanted to see this after all of that.
Yes,
because
big time. This whole sequence of Harley just showing how dangerous Harley is.
Yes,
she's not just crazy. She's absolutely a killing machine.
Yep.
And you see this right here. And again, it goes back to part of the thing where in her mind, she knows 100% she can accomplish it. So there's no hesitation, no doubt, no nothing, because she knows she's this, this is what she can do. Okay, I got to kill all these people. I got to get out. Okay, no problem. And that's part of the strength of Harley in not just the physical abilities, but it's the fact that there's no fear, there's no hesitation, there's no slowdown, no nothing, and you just see her just tear through this small army, with just picking up weapons as she goes along. And I love seeing that. It had that great kind of video game kind of mindset to it, where as you kill the bad guy, you pick up their weapon and use it on the next bad guy. It was absolutely brilliant. The choreography of the violence.
Yep.
This was a beautiful dance of death. And I tell you, I love just this sequence going through. And once again, kudos to the actress, kudos to the stunt team. Everybody involved in this sequence was absolutely brilliant.
It does show, too, that she's not perfect and she's not indestructible in the sense that she got captured. She made, mistakes along the way. And those things all played into this particular scenario. She ultimately, to talk about the oncoming storm, I love that the flowers and now we're seeing her. And I wonder if that's psychologically her way of dealing with all the chaos around her is like it turns into this kind of flowing, beautiful chaos that just seems to work from her. Like the way that she sees the
javelin. Yeah.
Javelin. And I was, when the second the javelin showed up, she drops a gun and opts for the javelin instead. She had a machine gun that she was using, and she opted for the javelin. And it was so like what we wanted to see in that moment. I mean, very, very strong delivery.
Well, and I love that after the fact, you look back into the room, you still see the flowers and the birdies dancing. There are two little birdies dancing, and even after she's done with all her chaos, every time they show the door, you still see those cartoony things going on behind them.
Yes, you do.
That's a little attention detail I love. It's kind of like all the Sebastian details they do with the rat.
Yeah.
It's little details like that I absolutely love in this movie.
And it doesn't go away as they're driving away.
Right. Now, the team sneaking in to rescue Harley.
And her seeing them right away, and her reaction was just, this is every bit of the pacing of this sequence is brilliant. I loved this.
Now, Ratatouille, what do you got?
One of the things I really liked about this sequence, too, is because it plays off later with how Ratcatcher starts to have feelings of loyalty to what Flag was trying to do and things, because he says, we don't leave one of our own behind. And he's backed up by Dubois. So we're starting to see the formation of a team here where you can understand the way of operating for two people who are, Dubois is a villain. Flag is not. Flag is, kind of trying to build a squad and work with a squad as he's done in the past. But there's some loyalty here. Like the whole sequence with Harley, it's like they have a history together and he wants to protect her even though they have a history together. And she's not used to that kind of loyalty. It doesn't happen in her world. So it at this point in the film was when I was like, I don't want to see any of these guys die. I know it's going to happen because it's Suicide Squad. But I literally I liked this squad, this group so much. I wanted to see them somehow continue to survive, which you're supposed to do. You're supposed to care at this point.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I thought we were already dead with our blood count, with our body count. I actually thought the rest of these people were going to make it, just because there's so many people who've already died.
Yeah. This is my favorite comedy moment. Yeah. If we find out you have personalized license plates, you die. If you mismatch...
What? No. If you mismatch blacks, you die. If you cough without covering your mouth... All those last things, no. I love just these Harley moments. And part of me wonders how much of this was in the script, how much of this was improvising, especially the moments where she goes, I'm pacing back and forth.
I want to see, like, there's cut scenes from this, or different takes that are probably involved in this. I would love to see if there's different takes of that, because that happens a lot of times in these films where they shoot like, multiple takes to see what really plays out well on screen. So I'm curious to see if there's different variations on these lines that they tried out to see what they fit like. So this is a movie I will buy when it comes out, even if it like is one of those where it stays perpetually on HBO Max after a certain point in time. I will buy it for the extras and any documentaries and stuff like that go with it, because I love cut scenes and I love alternate takes. Those are some of my favorite things to see in films. Like the things that they tried that like either were cut due to time or were cut because they liked a different scene better. Sometimes those are really funny to see. Like this may have been an example of her shooting off 5 or 6 one-liners in order to see what fit. I don't know if it's the case, but we'll find out. I would imagine that was probably the case. My
guess is there had to have been multiple stuff from there.
Yeah.
And they cut some of it, and some of it, just seeing people crack up, and there's probably going to be some cool sequences just from that moment.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, that was absolutely wonderful. And, them approaching Starfish here. They're coming into it. The heavy rain starts up, good cover. I was like, man, this is nice. Because I was wondering, how are they going to move through the open? Because it's kind of hard to hide a big shark.
I did not realize that Starro was going to be the villain in this. I don't know if maybe I stayed well enough away from previews of this, that because I watched the initial trailers, but I don't know if I somehow missed. Did you know Starro was going to be the villain?
No, not until we saw in the movie. I'm like, Starro, what? And that's what I was thinking. Like, because I remember thinking, Starro is a Justice League level villain. And that had me wondering, are we going to see a Justice League appearance? A surprise appearance by the Justice League was one of the thoughts that was running through the back of my mind. I'm glad they didn't do it because I like seeing the Suicide Squad take on Starro, but that was something that was popping in my head, by the way.
I could see a hero appearance too, so I'm not disputing you at all. When I could see why you went there, and I could see why that would have been the case. I'm also with you that I'm glad that they didn't go that route, because I think it needed to be all about this team. It kind of fits the covert nature of this too, that this is something that was being studied for years behind the scenes and maybe wouldn't be on the Justice League's radar because of the fact that it was being done so covertly. I'm sure it is after this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you, King Shark, I was expecting him to go num-num.
Yeah, I didn't expect
Ripping
that.
the body in half was actually better. I kind of like that.
I love that Peacemaker's ramming Thinker's head into the screener, to check for his vision before destroying it. Like, it total irreverence to him. Like, listen, buddy, you are not part of the team. And if there was anything that was clarifying that, you are not part of the team. You are not a trusted member of this team. You can die at any point in time. The only thing keeping you alive is the fact that you have useful knowledge that can help us. If you choose to continue to stay alive, it's going to be because of the fact that you are playing along with the team.
Yeah. Well, and you go back to when they were going to break Harley out.
Right.
He was like, I've got eyes on the only person on the floor. It was a female, obviously non-combatant, and he was going to drop her.
Yep.
Because that's what he does.
Such a good movie.
Oh God, yeah. And again, it's just one of the things that does crack me up with just seeing them lay out in the team and laying out the plan. And I'm sitting there thinking, I remember when we were first watching this thinking, if you blow up the building but don't kill the big giant starfish, you're unleashing the giant starfish into the world. You guys, you got a problem here.
How many times have you watched this? Because I know you had a significant power outage because we had some serious storms here. So I know that might have thrown off your week and your plans as far as revisiting this in terms of preparing for this episode. How many times did you get to see this? Like, we saw it in the theater together.
I saw it once with you and then once on my own. I didn't get a chance to do my normal multiple, three. I like to do 3 watch-throughs of movies when we talk about them, but I didn't get to do my 3rd watch-through on this because I was without power for a couple days.
I did. My wife hasn't seen this yet. I've watched it 3 times, and I was talking to her about it last night, and just because I was excited about the fact that we were going to be recording it. And, I tried to do it without going too spoilery because of the fact that I genuinely think she'll enjoy this because she likes Deadpool and, the movies with an edge to them. She likes stuff like Bad Grandpa and that type of humor. So we talked about this quite a bit. I really do want to watch it again and watch it with her, just to see how she'd like it because I think she'd really like this. I think it's a great, I think it's a really well done movie.
Oh, God, yeah. Now, I tell you, this is one of those movies that I would recommend to anybody. Even if you're not, even if you're not a superhero kind of guy, this would be a good movie for you. I think this would still be, because it's action and funny, and it's a little bit over the top because you've got this walking, talking shark and the various other giant, 60-foot, 50, 100-foot starfish going to make an appearance soon, but there's still enough in this that I think this is one of those really good movies. Again, we keep throwing out the Guardians because Guardians also, it was a superhero movie, but, the non-superhero fans still liked it. It was still a good, fun movie. So, yeah. And walking in on finally seeing, when Flag first sees the victims, first sees all the people who are with the starfish. And I'm like, this for me was just a great, wonderful scene. Again, showing Flag and showing Ratcatcher 2, the horror that they're having for this, for these victims is absolutely just really telling and just, again, great acting on the actors' parts. Both of them are doing just absolutely wonderful job of just the portrayal and just the raw emotion they're showing is absolutely wonderful. I especially love Ratcatcher holding her, hugging her rat, hugging Sebastian, kind of like she needs the comfort of him.
Yeah, and that's something that relationship is pretty critical to show because at this point in time we understand what their relationship is because of the sequence with her dad. The scope and scale of Starro, when you see her looking at the window, and that's just a small portion of it, was really something that gave me a sense of depth. I love that he's got all these dangly tentacles and things that come out of him as well. It gives you more of a sense of creepy and invasive.
It allows him to do the little grabbing. On the end of each of his, what would be his arms, those little tentacles come out so he can actually physically grab. Otherwise, he could crush you, but there wouldn't be that. He wouldn't be as dangerous other than releasing the little starfish. So I don't know if that was always part of Starro, but I like it, little add on to it. Especially we see when it's used later on with Thinker. Now, the U.S. involvement in this, once again, did not see this coming. I'll be honest, I was an idiot. I'm kicking myself in the head, how much the U.S. government was involved with the Starro. They discovered it, but they didn't want to experiment it on U.S. soil, so they sent it to the Corto Maltese. Oh, God, that is absolutely wonderful.
Which also, to the point of this, hides it from the Justice League, hides it from, this is something where they went really covert with it. So us not knowing this was going to be a Starro thing is by design because of the fact that they couldn't know too much of what was going on because once you got that out there, you're going to have wandering eyes. So they really kept this covert. Peacemaker in the sequence is... I knew where you started to feel where this was going to go, and I did not want it to go here, but it so makes sense that it went here.
Yes.
You know, it's like you don't want to see what's going to happen with these two, but yet the writing's on the wall, and she's kind of in the middle realizing that this changes everything. She knows this is the pivotal moment that is going to change everything with this family that she started to feel. And she's like the kind of the heart of the team. So you get... like, her being there is so perfect. Like, this writing is brilliant in this sequence. She was the only team member that really should be there besides these two, because she's giving us this sense of, we don't want this, like kicking it to 11. Like, I was with her, like, watching this. I was standing there right with her going, no, guys, don't do this. Please don't do this. I'm starting to really like you both.
I'll tell you, and I loved, it was funny, I didn't see the Peacemaker's turn until the exact moment. You know, once he showed up there, I knew something was about to happen. And just this between these two characters, between Flag and Peacemaker, is absolutely, these were the two right characters for this sequence. And I was like, oh man! And as it was going down, I'm like, I don't want to see Flag die. I don't want to see Flag die. And I'll tell you, that was one of the reasons I really did love that sequence, was because we get a great, this kind of teaser for it, and then it goes back to Ratcatcher, and it was like, oh man, I'm like, what happened between those two of them? As you're sitting there watching, Ratcatcher and Thinker deal with Starro, a very angry and free Starro. Like, oh man, this is not going to end well.
The whole, like, scary nature of this, like, you see his nails in the ground. It gives you a sense of the strength of Starro. It becomes horror movie. This has a lot going on, because you want to believe now that the big bad is truly dangerous. We've seen them do a lot of damage in this. And now we've got a team that's fractured. Like, they are not, as a unit, if they were all functioning together and actually working together for a common goal, I believe they could handle Starro with no problem at all. But now you've got a Starro where I'm like, this Starro would still give them a run for the money and could possibly win with them all on the same page. Yep. Now we've got them not on the same page, and there's no way to use the Thinker to help them at this point, because, Starro's basically like, you're not going to be in charge of anything anymore, because I'm going to just splat you all over the place. The sense of power of that was really, really something.
The fight sequence between Flag and Cena was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And I love that how a good chunk of this beginning was told in the reflection of his helmet.
Yeah.
That for me was a really cool choice. Just because they both, again, after they see the drive, this initial part of this fight is all in the reflection of the helmet. I thought that was absolutely wonderful, because again, you got two very evenly matched fighters, both very skilled, and it's just going to be who gets that little edge.
The violence of this is pretty strong, because these are people that they know that this is do or die. I either win or I'm done. Flag is trying to be the hero, and respond the way a hero does and try to reason with him. Because he doesn't want to take this where it logically needs to go. And that's kind of cool to see, like, that he recognizes he's in there with a killer, but yet this killer's been a teammate of his. And Flag believes that he can reason with somebody in, hey, there's a moral good to this, right? This needs to get out there. The truth needs to get out there. So that way those who are responsible are held accountable, and we stop an atrocity like this from happening again. Like, Flag has got an emotional reason behind this. And he's, like, ready to take it as far as you possibly can. like without, like he's not all in on killing him, which I think is ultimately the mistake here.
I don't know. When you get the pipe on the throat, that's kind of a good indicator you're going to kill him. But granted, he didn't snap the neck.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
even Cena's Peacemaker character, you can see that he's kind of remorseful on what was happening here. Look at him. He's looking him in the face, and I love the acting here on this. Because you see that he was all in, but not. Like, he doesn't totally believe the rhetoric he's spouting. Because you see the real him in this moment. I think this is one of the first sequences where you actually get to see the real man. Like, that reaction. That's a very real reaction from him.
Oh, yeah. He is conflicted, I think. But there is a little bit of not completely all there mentally.
Yep.
There is a little bit of the crazy in him. And I think that's part of the whole thing. Even, going back to when they were initially about to attack the resistance fighters. When Ratcatcher's like, I thought you were the crazy one, hearing him spout his rhetoric. And again, when he's hunting down Ratcatcher, again, that shows the level of evil in him. Like a lot of these villains, they don't have evil, they're just crooks and thugs, and they're killers, but they're not evil. This right here is showing an evil moment because, the information, all he has to do is destroy the hard drive. She's like, why kill me? Because I'm thorough. And that's the thing. That shows he doesn't need to kill her right there. All he has to do is destroy that hard drive right now, and that's it. That mission accomplished. But he's got to take it one step earlier.
This is a sequence that I wanted to see where everything went from here, because we knew that this was going to lead to the ultimate battle with Starro. I love that he's sitting here in, like, Bermuda shorts. Like he's on vacation, King Shark.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of wandering about, like...
Well, they left him alone, so... they're going to do their thing. And I love this sequence when he walks in, it's that gentle music, and he sees all the nice little fun fishy friends, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is going to end so horrifically.
This led to, I think, one of the... You can do a balance of, like, endearing sequences like this, and... This is one where, like, I wanted him to survive, too. I want to see him in future offerings. Because you see these fish, these creatures come out, and they're like, okay, we're going to kind of do some mimicry of him. And he's longing for the friendship that he was talking about earlier. This was, something that he actually wants. She was able to appeal to this side of him. And this is where it doesn't change his animal instincts, doesn't change the danger of him. He's playing with them here.
Yeah.
And just starting to, like, really love every second of the fact that, wow, they're playing with me as well. New dumb friends. He feels like the smart guy in the room.
Yep. I love this sequence, just the laughter and the goofiness, and then you go into the action sequence. And I thought that, for me, is something they did a really good blend of those kind of stuff.
Wait, and Milton dies because he hesitates to try and help Polka Dotted Man.
Yep. Milton. Godspeed, Milton.
Wait, we have a Milton? Who's Milton?
Yeah. Again.
Oh, Milton.
Little funny moments that doesn't throw off the movie.
Yeah. Well, and I love that neither of them, it's not just her, it's Bloodsport's like, wait, he stayed with us? Why was he with us? What was he going to even do?
And then Harley's even like, who's Milton? What? What do you mean?
It's
funny moments between Polka Dot, between Harley and Bloodsport, all of them. Again, and it was one of the neat things about this sequence. It didn't just take away from the high action, didn't just take away from anything, but it's going to later on add to, Polka Dot Man's kind of mistake that he makes when he has another quick reaction when the new bad guys show up. Instead of letting Harley or Bloodsport kill the new bad guys, he uses his polka dots, and I think it adds to with his anger over the death of Milton.
This turning into this sequence where they have this about Milton, then all of a sudden the action starts up again, and the chaos all of a sudden ends the conversation. There's no more conversation with Milton is just plain out done. She saved Polka Dot Man's life.
Yeah.
In that sequence.
And Harley recognizes, no, don't. She knew what was about to happen with the, with him detonating the bombs. I thought that was a cool sequence because you think back to earlier, right before the fight between Flag and Peacemaker, they set off the bombs early. Yeah, they did set it off early because he blew them up. And again, more action. I love with the water sequences. And then all of a sudden his fun little fishy friends show up and, no, they're carnivorous monsters. They're going to start eating him. And again, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And completely saw it coming, but it still was a fun sequence. And even Harley swimming in to help King Shark. There's a moment there you can see her actually pulling off these little monsters off of King Shark.
She's incredibly loyal. It's something that gets her into trouble a lot because her reasons for loyalty sometimes are, hey, we're a team, we're working together, or we become friends, because she's longing for friendship and love and support too. And it gets her in trouble because she sometimes gives that undying loyalty, that quick loyalty, to people she shouldn't. It's really interesting. Her and King Shark, seeing them together, I think just because I loved her odd couple group in the Harley Quinn cartoon, it just worked so well. This does capture a lot of what I love about the Harley Quinn series, the cartoon series. And boy, I go back and I see so much of Harley Quinn now that I didn't appreciate before and say, you fool, how did you not get this character before now? Sometimes there's things that just make you click and make you realize what you like about a concept. And I go back and see things before that I was disinterested in. And, or not disinterested isn't the right word, but I was mildly interested in, I wasn't all in on the character. And now I just absolutely love and adore the character. It's really interesting.
Oh, big time. Big time. And I'll tell you, I loved this sequence with King Shark when, again, he falls off a building and then they shoot him and he's still standing. Not only is he still standing, he rips the head off of the guy, and starts yum on it. So the power that they're really doing with King Shark is absolutely wonderful. And again, he's one of those characters that throughout this I was like, please don't kill the shark. Please don't kill the shark. Because I really want to see him in another movie just because he's a fun character.
I love that, their building is crumbling around them. She sees the javelin, has to swoop down to grab it, and is so excited in that moment. Yes. It didn't change the intensity. It was, flawless. And actually helped save her life here because she ends up using the javelin as, basically a way to latch onto the wall. Such a really cool, again, with them, it's not always about winning. It's not always about accomplishing the goals. Sometimes it is about surviving. They have survived so much in this film, and it's a different sort of mentality with villains. It's a lot of survival. Save yourself first, then save others. There's not a lot of self-sacrifice here going on.
No. But again, the funny thing is you love seeing, now that this team is getting together, they are starting to risk their life to save the others. Right. And I like seeing that. Again, it's not anything that happened instantly, but it happened periodically as time goes on. And then even the sequence with Bloodsport falling between each of the different floors. And I'll tell you, again, you knew where this was going to end up, but you still, even when you get to see the sequence, it takes it back to the moment where right before he's about to kill her, he shows up. And I love this sequence between these two because it's that one moment that eyeballing each other, it's the quick draw. The classic of any great Western, two gunmen, who's faster.
I did not see this sequence leading back to the earlier sequence we mentioned earlier with the bullet.
Right.
But I loved that it did. And that's an example of a film that watches differently the second time around when you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yep.
That little throwaway sequence isn't really a throwaway sequence. He actually gives him the idea.
And again, love seeing this where the smaller bullet goes right through it. Beautiful, beautiful appearance.
There's going to be a Peacemaker TV series, right?
Really?
Yeah, that's part of the closing sequence when we get to it.
Right.
That there's going to be an HBO Max Peacemaker miniseries, similar to what Marvel's been doing on the Disney Plus.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, no. So that's already a lock. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. So it's a spin-off of this.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll tell you, and I love seeing the fact that Ratcatcher, him saving Ratcatcher, but two, again, just those moments between the two of them. Again, it adds to everything. And even just again, little funny moments of King Shark walking in while he's still munching on the guy's head.
Yeah. Wow. This sequence with Starro just bursting on through like that, and the violence of it. You see this strength and power. I gotta say, this has given me a different kind of view of Starro. I've always seen Starro in the comics, with kind of, on the flat page, and the sense of motion they've created. It's been more of a psychological piece than this. What I love with this is you get every bit of that from the comics, but also this sense of strength and power and overwhelming size. There is a danger to Starro there's things from this with Starro that really should appear more in the comics after this. Like, I think they did some neat, unique things with the character that is worth taking some of these concepts and continuing them on.
Oh, yeah, big time. And I tell you, you kind of like, in a way, they make Starro kind of the victim in this circumstance.
Yeah.
Starro's not the conqueror. He was named that by the Thinker. He really was just happy drifting in space looking at the stars. It was, American astronauts who pulled him into the thing, then started doing these horrific experiments on him. So that kind of angered him.
Yeah. And I like that sense of, to your point, they've played that in comics before, where Starro's been used. So that's not a new concept, but the way that they're doing it here as far as an introduction to Starro, an origin story, that is unique. Starro's origin story, having that kind of spin to it is something, obviously, because the JLA origins were very different than this. But boy, is this scary when you see it in the way that it's written. And boy, how brilliant is she that she, I'm going to throw on a gas mask here.
Well, that's a Ratcatcher mask. That's her mask.
But I'm saying it's a smart move to throw that on, because her Ratcatcher match it's a gas mask. So the idea that that would be some form of solution is kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, and it was neat because they showed Bloodsport's mask getting smashed, so that's why he doesn't have his anymore.
Yep.
And again, it was a neat sequence where even the general's like, he realizes that's it, I'm done. He knows it, and you're just waiting for it to happen. And when it does, you're like, all right. All the truly evil bad guys are not going to be around anymore. Nice.
And he had a Savant moment, where you can clearly tell he's in Savant's place. I wonder if Starro could take over King Shark because of the structure.
Yeah, I don't know. And again, I love going into then showing the generals and all that stuff. We're like, he's dead. We have a new general. That means I'm the president. Not so fast, dude. And I love this sequence because it was laid out earlier by Flag, telling her, "Hey, when we attack them, they're going to leave all their general. They're going to pull everything they got at us. It's going to leave these generals undefensive. No defenses for them." So I'm like, everything playing out the way Flag wanted it to play out, except for him dying. Yeah.
I don't know that I'd take over the government yet. Like, if it were me, I'd be like, listen, you guys fix this, then we're taking over the government.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a big giant starfish there kind of taking over the country, and then eventually we'll take over the world if you don't stop it. Now, I'll tell you, again, you and I both love zombie movies,
yep.
And this does have that zombie creepy factor. Add to it, though, the fact that they're talking for the big giant starfish. That, for me, is absolutely wonderful. And even, like, when the starfish roars, they're all going, oh, doing all the roar. I was like, man, this adds to a whole level of creep factor that I'm like, this is outstanding.
I loved that the motion of that was twisting. Did you catch that? Like, it wasn't like walking on two legs. It was, as it started to stumble, it actually shifted to the other side, and now the other two became the legs instead. Like, it just kind of, like a starfish would, it kind of turns over on this other side and kind of moves around that way. I liked that attention to detail. Instead of making this thing look like a human, it reacted the way that like a starfish would. Because it doesn't have to go on just two of them. It could use the other ones. That was a neat little attention to detail that it didn't happen in every sequence, but that opening part kind of establishing that this is something different I thought was cool.
Yeah, now, I'll tell you, coming up now, we're going to get to the one scene that I didn't like.
Okay.
When Waller completely loses it. Now, I can see her getting angry at them, but just the level that she loses it is the only sequence I didn't like. Because the wall never loses her cool. And this wall lost her cool. Now, they completely did it for that audience moment. Yeah. They did this for the audience to have that pop. So I completely understand why they did it, and I'm not. It didn't take away anything from the portrayal. But when she starts yelling, profanities at them, that's the only sequence of her portrayal that I didn't enjoy. But again, they did it because they want to give the audience that reaction, and it did get the audience reaction because when the teammate clocks her, with the golf club. Our audience popped for that sequence, and that's the whole point of it.
Couldn't you have done it if it was like her being ruthless, though? I think you could have accomplished the same goal. I'm actually agreeing with you on this. I
don't think if she was being the typical wall moment,
that
you would have had as big a reaction.
Yeah, I get it.
I think you needed to have her be irrational to get the reaction from the audience, and I think that's the sole reason they did that. And again, I love this moment with the team where they all like, let's do it. We got to, they all are turning around, going back to face the giant starfish. And it's all building for that moment. And one by one, each of the team members is signing up with Bloodsport to do this, and they're all turning their back on what the wall's telling them. So that's why they had the wall get irrational at this moment. And I understand why they did it. But again, it's one of those things where the wall would never lose her cool. And I don't have a problem with it because why they did it. And possibly even setting up for the next movie, because if the rumors are true, the Suicide Squad is going up against another team. And it's another team that Waller hires to get even with them because of this. You've heard the rumor, have you?
I did.
The rumor is that the Suicide Squad's going to go up against a team of 6, but it's a secret. So
yeah. Which I would love if they end up.
And to be honest, her losing. See, like these sequences where she's screaming, at them. You needed to have that irrational where that blop in the head really does get the audience pop. You see that pure, just that look on the wall's face is what locks in the audience cheer. So that's why they did it. So I don't have an issue with it. But that's the one scene where the wall wasn't being the wall. And again, I still love this movie, still love her portrayal, still love what they did, and especially if they use this for the next movie. If they use these moments for the next movie, that'll really escalate things. So
I've heard a lot of rumors about the next movie. One I've heard is that it's also going to be a standalone. I would be happy if they build off of this because I really like it. I was happy if they would have built off the last one. So this is, I just want a strong movie. So I'm happy with whatever direction they go in. What you're talking about for a potential sequel, I would love that idea. Makes me very happy.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. This whole battle sequence is just it was one of the coolest in there because there's at this point a real sense of danger. We know what these people are capable of, but we also have seen what we've seen from Starro at this point. So now I'm really convinced at this point that everybody on screen, including Harley, is potentially expendable because what you don't know is who really wants to be in the next movie or in another movie or where are they at. You sometimes see things, I'm convinced after Boomerang that anybody's expendable.
Yeah. When Boomerang and Flag died, anybody could die.
Right.
And I think that's one of the reasons that I don't have an issue with them killing Flag, even though I would have liked to seen him live. But that really does sell the point that any of them can die. And especially even Boomerang too. When they killed Boomer right at the opening sequence, they really, did that great usage. But again, I love seeing Bloodsport become the leader. He's like, Harley, take the high ground. Nanu, monster is num. And then especially with Polka Dot Man, do you see that? That's your mom. Absolutely love that, man.
I love that they show us through his eyes.
Yes,
that's something you mentioned it with. You mentioned it with Harley. We got to see it with him. With a lot of these characters, we got to see it with Ratcatcher through her storytelling. It's helpful to see the craziness through their eyes, and see how he sees it when he causes damage to the starfish. He doesn't see the damage to the starfish as a starfish. He sees it as damage to his mom. And it's. I love that attacking his mom somehow makes him think he's a superhero.
I'm a superhero! Splat! Oh, dang it! I wish he would have made it. I really do, because he was a great, funny character. But again, it adds to it. You knew the people were going to die. Then when Starro throws King Shark into the building, I'm like, Shark can make that. He can survive that. But the building falling down on Harley,
right.
Again, beautiful action sequences, but when she fell into the building, I knew she was alive. I knew for a fact, there's no way if she's going to die, she's going to die on screen. And it was just this great moment of seeing this team slowly kind of falling down and getting taken out. But it's the nature of the hero. You get knocked down, you get back up. And these guys are becoming the hero of the story. These are killers and monsters and thieves and whatnot, but right now they're stepping up and becoming heroes.
His fighting through this sequence and recognizing that she is going to sacrifice herself for this moment. He wouldn't let her sacrifice himself. It's the father-daughter relationship that we saw established. This sequence means less if you didn't have the bus sequence from before, exactly. With the two of them. And that was some great character development there. Because now all of a sudden you want to see these two fight it out with standing together and continuing to fight. I was pretty sure that Harley Quinn was, yes, in danger, but I thought she was going to be the one that was going to be safe.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I didn't know what the rest of these at this point. I'm like, I don't know. They've killed just about everybody else. Even the first viewing that you and I had of this, I didn't know Peacemaker stood any chance of being around at the end of this.
Oh, yeah.
Because
he gets shot in the neck. Come on, that's a death blow right there.
Right. I've since learned that he's going to be having a Peacemaker miniseries, but it was... when you see the closing credits, you don't realize the significance that's setting up for the miniseries.
Oh, yeah. And it was funny because we left before our first viewing. We missed that the first time.
Yeah.
And I was like, because we saw the one end sequence, but we didn't see the Peacemaker. And I was like, it was funny because I was watching it. My second watch was like, oh, we left too early. Dang it.
Right.
Now, when she's calling the rats, a couple sequences I loved on this is, one, he's freaking out because he's got rats crawling over him. But two, she's right there with him, kind of comforting him. I thought that was a cool sequence. And then you see the rats storming, the giant starfish to take it down. And Harley's coming up, stick a needle in its eye. I was like, yes. I'll tell you, this was just a great sequence, especially when she does the flashback. And she's talking to her papa about the rats and why rats, because they're the lowest of creatures. And if they have a purpose, so do we. And I was like, dude, this is just a great moment right here. And again, it shows her who she is and how she truly does care about these creatures, especially Sebastian, because that's right there is her with Sebastian. And I was like, man, this is a neat moment in history. And I loved how they kept jumping back and forth, and that right there was the perfect time to do it, because it's really, in the present, this is her moment to shine. It's showing her power, her love, her compassion, and just the strength of her that she has.
This was great. I didn't expect her to go inside the eye here. And this is where I started like, okay, how's Harley going to get out of this? Because isn't she going to drown? And what's this going to look like? This was a beautiful visual sequence and a great example of just using some great cinematography, because the tendrils of the eye as the rats are squirting it, and just her whole visual look it was just, again, the sense of wonder that is Harley. Yeah. She's enjoying watching this, whereas other people would be freaking out.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I wonder, I'm assuming they filmed this with her in an actual pool. And it was because obviously the rats and everything is all CGI. Mm-hmm. But I do wonder how they filmed this. Yeah. Because the way her hair is flowing, she actually looks like she's in water. So I'm assuming they dropped the actress in water and filmed all of it and then used CGI to fill in all the other stuff. But I'd love to see the making of this movie.
Yeah, they really do. Like, it's a very well done sequence of events, because I really, like you, I felt like she was in water. Yeah. So even if she's not, great job. Whatever they did to make that happen, they made me believe it. And that's the important part, right? It's not really the how. It's that the ability to suspend disbelief. And sometimes that's done through great special effects. It's always best when it's done through a combination of great acting and great special effects, and they did a great job in this one. Well,
I'll tell you something I just noticed.
Yeah.
When Starro goes down, one of the legs, you can see the damage that Polka Dot Man did.
Yep.
I just noticed that now. That is kind of neat. Again, attention to detail. That's awesome.
The daughter sequence right here was a good partial closure to this, where you get to see her kind of see her dad for who he is. And you knew that sequence with the two of them, neither of them really meant what they were saying to each other.
Yeah.
They wanted this. They wanted to be this to each other. And it's cool to see the satisfaction at the end of they get that, wherever these characters go. If he's in the next movie or not, I feel like they've given him a satisfying arc.
Well, again, with him having the blackmail on the wall, you detonate the bomb, you put my daughter in prison, this goes public, and it's, again, this was a neat moment for their freedom, for the survivors' freedom, and again, I liked his usage of it, and again, it adds to the next, what's going to be the ramifications of this. You just made the wall your enemy. That's not a good move.
Right, right.
You angered the wall. And even her looking at her staff, the way she's looking at her staff, she's a little angry at them as well. So what happens to them? Those are the kind of stuff I want to see later on. I want to know what happens. Because you think back to the first movie, when she was in the building and the operatives who weren't cleared for the information before she left, she put a bullet in all of them. You know, what's she going to do to these people?
It's interesting now, the debate between her and Dubois.
Yeah.
And what's going on here, because he's made a deal now that has freed them all. I could be your friend, Milton.
Not my name. We just had a conversation about it. Again, good, funny Harley Quinn moment. Ending it, with just that funny moment of, after all this seriousness, because it was a serious moment where, she's like, hey, Flag wanted that released. Well, we can't have it all. We saved the city, we saved ourselves, but we can't, do that. It's just that kind of compromise that they had to do. Life isn't completely clean. And that's one of the things that especially happens in the Suicide Squad movies.
The conclusion at the end, when you see them, I love that there's like this sense of battle damage. Like Ratcatcher's exhausted. King Shark looks like he's hurt. He's hurt. There is this sense of, we have been through a lot. Even Harley, in her own little like smiling way, she's clearly been through battle. That sometimes in movies like this, you get the idea that they could go like now have another battle immediately afterwards. And I'm really glad. His tension here. Oh, this is so great with the rat. The rat's now resting on him, and he's totally tense. But you see him like bending a little bit and going, all right, this is this kid's rat, and like I care about her and just made it through this. I can take this step. And it's funny how a little tiny thing like that, I'm totally convinced the rat's CGI, by the way, but it's great CGI.
It's got to be, because, the little details that the rat was doing just with the, when it yawned.
Yeah.
And it did that kind of like that circular motion kind of thing to find the right spot. And, it was nuzzling him a little bit kind of stuff. There's no way they could train an animal to do that. But that CGI looks really good.
Okay. I do want this character in the sequel.
Yes. Weasel.
I did not expect this.
No. That was awesome, man. I'll tell you that. You and I both cheered with that one. Like, yes, Weasel alive!
I love how the character wakes up and like looking around and like all this stuff has clearly happened, and now he's just kind of like wandering off. Nobody knows that this character's even still alive.
Yeah. What does the Weasel do in Corto Maltese, though? Because now the Weasel's rampant on that island.
I was going to say I'd start by eating birds, but there's no. I think the birds were burnt.
Yeah.
So we thought mistakenly that the film ended here.
And the thing is, because we stuck around for a while.
Yeah.
So they really put the second, the second scene later on, and that, I was like, dang it! I kind of kicked myself. I'm like, rookie mistake, Jim, rookie mistake. But again,
I looked online as we were sitting there, and it said that there was no end credits scene. So I obviously got to the wrong site, but it said because this was conceived as kind of a standalone, there was no end credits scene. But I think who knows what date that was. It's an example of not every online source is a reputable source. Clearly, so we walked out at that point. I was like pretty confident that like we were doing the right thing. And you're right, we stuck around for a decent amount of time while we were searching for that. I really liked the styling of this. Like, I like the kind of classic look to this. As each color, it changes the color theme to certain characters, and just kind of the ending of this felt very... This is a very stylized film, and I liked the style. It wasn't overdone, but clearly wasn't afraid to have like a visual style to it that felt like a mix between comic book and a film that's not afraid to have some artsy elements in it where appropriate. You can sometimes overdo that stuff, right? And it just gets lost. They had a really good balance of this. I like this. It's weird to look at the credits and go, I like the visual styling of what they're doing here, but
Yeah.
I really do like the visual styling of what they did here.
And I'll tell you, the music choice, we didn't really talk about it throughout this, but again, I do like when the music's interplaying with the action sequence, and even like some of the times when I know when Milton was pulling up in the van, the music that was playing in the background actually ended up being playing on his radio and stuff like that. And they've done they did a little play off of that. And again, the first movie, I thought the musical score was awesome. This music, same thing. All the way right from the very beginning with Johnny Cash. Folsom Prison Blues. Come on, that's a perfect thing to open up. For me, it was kind of like when they did House of the Rising Sun, from in the first movie when they first did that. So it's I liked their play. I liked their the playlist that they had with this. So
there's two musical scores to this. I mean, there's two soundtracks available for this. There's the musical score that you were referencing, which is the music that was created specifically for this. Then there's the licensed music. I actually bought both. You can. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I really liked the music too, you can actually buy both the score itself and the soundtrack to the licensed music. And I would encourage both, because I think the actual musical score is absolutely terrific. And it's great because I like to listen to musical scores now when I read comics. And this is one of them that's now in the rotation just because I thought it had a really good action score to it. And then the soundtrack itself with the licensed music is outstanding. I mean, they had some really strong song choices in this, and I wanted it. So both are available if you're interested in either or both. You can get them now.
That's cool. Again, I in a way I do like that. I remember my brother Dave is big time into music soundtracks. And he always, whenever we'd leave a movie when we were growing up, he'd always want to get the soundtrack for it, just because, they do take their time with that. Well, the good movies, they really do that. They do well. And especially the current movies that we're getting more of this kind of stuff going on.
Yep.
Where the music is so interconnected to the sequence. In the past, you think back to some of the classic movies, it was more musical. And the score is awesome. The Star Wars score is absolutely still one of my favorite scores. Just because that's just that classic, classical music, hitting hard and at the right time and the right beat, and really set the tone and the just the dynamic of the movie. But modern movies are shifting it where it's still keeping that, but they're taking it to another level. They're tweaking the game around a little bit. And I like that. And especially you get some directors, who really know how to play off the music. Gunn is one of those guys, and again, we saw it in all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. We're seeing it here. Quentin Tarantino's another one who I absolutely love his music and his scores for all of his movies.
Yeah. So
there's something kind of neat going on, with that stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big one, too. I don't get every soundtrack, but the ones that I'm interested in purchasing are the ones where the soundtrack really hit me. This one, it was funny. I grabbed first the licensed score because that's the first one you see when you do a search for it. And I'm like, I loved all the music, Johnny Cash and all that kind of stuff that was in there. I'm like, this is just a really nice mix of music. And I was bummed because I also like some of the action sequences, like when they're doing that raid on the beach. I loved the action sequence there. And I'm like, I want that. Where do I get that at? Do they have it? So I did a search and realized that they had both available. So I jumped to get both because I actually like this, for my purposes, the separation between the two is good because I want the instrumental score, the musical score, to be tied in. I love this stuff, the special thanks. I wish more was done with this, but I'm glad that there's something. So please don't take that as me saying that, it's as satisfying as I want it to be. I don't know what I would want exactly, but I'm glad for any advancement of acknowledging the people that have inspired and created the works that make this possible. It's just it's important to get to know who they are. And please read those when you see them in films, because you may not be aware of creators that have touched the characters that are featured in these films. And it's a good way to seek out some of their work, and kind of go, okay, well, how did they impact Suicide Squad? You can go and find out. That's a nice part nowadays. The availability of the comics is so much with digital, is so much stronger than it used to be. You can actually seek out the work. So this we missed in the first go-around.
Yeah, the Peacemaker sequence.
And this is great because I was glad when I saw it the second time around that I knew that there was a Peacemaker miniseries coming.
Well, and it's funny because when they found him in the rubble, they're like, who who was it? And you see it's Peacemaker. Oh man, he is hard to kill.
I like these singers saying he's not really the hero of Corto Maltese.
Yeah, he's kind of not. He's the villain, but we're gonna see what he does now. And I had no idea about. I was assuming that was going to be the second movie. To be honest, I didn't know about his own little limited series, so I'm very excited for that because I want to see more of that because he was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, that's already in production. I mean, that's coming soon. So
nice.
That's not an if. That's a when, and I think a very soon when.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm remembering when Cena made appearances on wrestling and his hairdo, and everyone was laughing at the way his hair was, but it was the hair for this character, and he's like, "Hey, I like this hair look. I like it," And reality, that's the look for the character. He needed it for the character. I was like, that was awesome. I had no idea of that was going on at the time. So it's kind of neat when you start seeing these little side bits.
So overall, what do you think of the film? To me, this film has quickly become one that I feel I'm going to rewatch because I've watched it 3 times and I want to watch it again.
Yes.
Which is probably the most sincere compliment I can give the movie, is that I see this as being. I keep referencing Guardians of the Galaxy because I don't know what else to reference that it falls in. It falls into the Deadpool, Guardians of the Galaxy, that kind of framework for me. I like these type of movies as their own kind of category. I don't want every superhero movie to take this kind of approach. And nor do I want every superhero movie to take a singleton approach. I like the different experimentation and taking characters that make sense to do something like this. This made sense. In its craziness, it made sense. I really, really enjoyed this film. So I want more of this. I want to watch this over and over again because it's a fun film. And I really liked the characters. Where are you at with this? Where does this fall in your kind of viewing?
Absolutely love. Oh my God, I'm going to see this again. And it made me want to watch the original Suicide again.
Yep.
It want to rewatch, the Birds of Prey or the fabulous annexation of Harley Quinn again. It 100% got me jazzed for all this stuff. And with the next movie, I'll be honest, I would like to see the next movie play off of this.
I do too. I
really would like to see, what happens when the wall, gets double crossed, because multiple people, double crossed her, and the wall's got to figure out a way to, 1, get that footage back, and 2, deal with them. How does she go about doing that? And that's kind of what I want to see. Now, granted, if we get another one shot, hey, it'll still be good. I'm not going to, again, especially if it's the same, especially if it's another, gun movie. I'm like, hey, all right, I trust him with this characters, with this genre, with these people, with this, universe. I'm okay with that. But I do want to see the next one, and again, who they go with, what they do. Okay, I'm in. I'm all in on this.
So one of the things I do wonder with this film is this has been one of those unique hybrid releases where it was released on HBO Max and released in the theaters. When you and I were there, I thought there was a respectful audience. I mean, a respectable audience, I should say, as far as size-wise is what I'm really going for there. What I'm hoping with these COVID movies that are coming out where there's been these hybrid releases, that there's some way of tracking how many views you got on the streaming service versus, how many what the dollar amount is for the box office, and you recognize that you made a strategic choice to release it that way. And hopefully this film generated enough interest in both venues that they recognize that they need to do more. I'm hoping that it's that kind of film. I don't know how they're tracking that in this environment. It's my worry with films being released this way. I'm not against it. I like the movies. I like going to the theater, especially for big movies like this. And Black Widow was another one I wanted to see in the theater. Shang-Chi's coming up. I want to see that in the theater. These are movies that are meant for the big screen spectacle. And I want to see it that way and experience it. At home, then the viewings afterwards, I'm happy to see them at home with, on the streaming service and stuff like that. But I like that big screen experience that while I've got a big TV at home, it's not the same. It's not that same as the community element and all that. I'm hoping that this does well because we've got an interesting year ahead of us because... you've got the Delta variant, and I mean, I don't want to make the whole show about that and to go too crazy. And we got now Delta Plus. If you weren't happy with Delta variant, guess what? Now there's more. They do an improved version of it that's out there. But people clearly have a desire to get back to some form of normal life and as normal as you can. While there's other people that there's all kinds of reasons why people are nervous about doing anything involving people in crowds and in any small or large capacity, and I can respect that too. I don't think there's a right or wrong right now. I think it's personal choice, personal beliefs, personal understanding of what is best for you in this scenario. I just get worried about film in this because I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I'm a film buff. I've always have been. I love seeing movies. I've seen quite a bit recently in the theaters, and I've been loving going back. I actually got one of those movie theater passes. Regal Cinema has one where you pay a monthly fee, and you can go to as many movies as you want. And basically, if you go to 2 movies a month, you've paid for it. So you can go to other like when you and I went to the Cinemark. I had no issue with paying for a movie there because I've already more than made up for my money at Regal. I've seen 3 movies there. So, I mean, it's been worth it. And I'm seeing things that sometimes I'll go with my wife, sometimes I'll go by myself, because there's certain movies that she won't see because, Old was kind of a creepy movie. It was M. Night Shyamalan, but it was very Alfred Hitchcock-esque, and that's just not my wife's cup of tea. So I wanted to see it, and I really wanted to see it on the big screen. So it was nice to be able to go, well, I got this pass. I'm just going to go see it, and it cost me 52 cents because you pay the surcharge, whatever it is, for that. But I saw the movie for 52 cents because of at that point, I'd already seen 2 other movies. So it more than paid for itself. But my point with that is I love streaming services. I love these. I love that we're going to get a Peacemaker short, whatever episodes that we're going to get of that miniseries. I don't want our only delivery, though, to be streaming services. There's something about films that are created for the big theater release, for that big theater experience. Ones that sometimes make sense to be in 3D, other times don't. I like the just variety of planning for that delivery method. I think there's an artistry that's different to that than more of an expanded miniseries. I like that we're getting new things from streaming services. I think it's great. I like that it's another option. And I think that there's certain films that maybe were always meant to be for streaming platforms that now can see the light of day that wouldn't have done well in the theaters. So I think streaming services are very good. I think it's something that offers another opportunity. I just don't want to lose theaters in the mix because I think it's a different sort of experience. What we experienced seeing this at the theater together is something you can't replicate on a streaming service. You just can't. It's not the same experience. And I loved this, so I hope the numbers in the combination of the two, that there is a model that is lucrative for these studios. Money's always a tough thing to talk about with these things because it's kind of almost bad that you talk about it. I got to talk about money. These studios have to make money. They don't make money, we don't see this stuff. So I want them to make money. I And conversely, I want the people behind the scenes who are making these movies to also make the money. I'm not anti that. People have got to make a living in this platform. So fingers crossed that I'm hoping this is something we can gradually recover from. Movie numbers have been good. I mean, we're starting to get some good movie numbers considering we're still in a pandemic, because it hasn't gone anywhere. But I really enjoyed this experience. Are you so how are you as far as with streaming films versus seeing them at the theaters? Like, do you have a preference? Are you more of a streaming guy now? Or do you like this experience more? Is it a hybrid for you? Have you shifted? Like, where are you at? It's kind of interesting.
I'm actually starting to shift more towards the streaming, just because it's kind of easier for me.
Got it.
But I'll tell you, it's, as I said when we first started talking about this movie, I was so glad I saw it on the big screen, and I wish I had seen Wonder Woman 84 on the big screen. So I think there is something about the screen, and I'll tell you, it's going to the movie theater would there is something about it. There's certain movies you do need to see on the big screen. You do need to have that full experience going on. But part of me does like the convenience of that. I'm sitting there at my house, and I got to go to the bathroom. Let me hit pause. Or I want to get some more popcorn. Let me hit pause. I do like that pause feature, and I do like if something goes on and my dad needs you from. Okay, let me hit pause and go take care of that. And I can come back to it. There is something that I do like about the streaming, the convenience of it, but the experience. Streaming does not rival, the actual experience in the movie theater for just that immersement into it. It's, so it's, I don't think I'll ever not want the big movie theaters around, but I do go to them less and less and less, especially COVID really crippled that. And I'm slowly starting to go back into it. I'm slowly starting to think, that'd be kind of neat, but there is always, the fact that it is so much easier to just, turn on my computer and stream it that way and be done with it. And then it is to hop in my car, drive down the street, go into the movie theater and all of that stuff. So I don't know. It
depends on the movie. It sounds like it depends on the movie.
Depends on the movie. It depends on the movie. It depends on the mood. Depends on the crew. If it's just me, I'm probably not going to go. But with this movie, you're like, hey, you want to do it? Like, yeah, let's do it, man. That was part of the enjoyment of it. Seeing it, hanging, going, we went out to eat beforehand and we watched the movie. And then afterwards we're laughing about it. And even during the movie, if you've got people to go with you, the actual in-theater experience is so much better than streaming it.
I noticed at the Cinemark we were at, and I think some of this is still COVID-related precautions, but they have a cafe that's off to the side, which is actually one of the things I really like about the Theater by You. They had a Starbucks, and they had a gelato stand. I mean, all this cool stuff. You could that. I don't normally consider part of the theater experience, but it was kind of kind of a ritzy sort of theater for that. That stuff's all still closed, and there was less staffing this time. Did you notice that? Than any other time we'd been there before. So I'm hoping that theaters get to the point where they can support the staffing again that we used to see, and the type of extras that we used to be able to get at the movie theaters. It's going to be an interesting wait and see. What does a multiplex look like 5 years from now? And I think it's too soon to tell, because we're still dealing with this. And it's I think the next 5 years are going to be pretty critical. First of all, for theaters to survive, in order to, because I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see some shrinking down of the amount of theaters available, unfortunately. But this movie, I think it's one of the pieces that I'm most, and I'm glad I'm talking about this at the end, because this is where this is really appropriate. I'm really most interested to see how this theater is considered, how this movie is considered to be a success or not. Based on box office and streaming numbers. How are they determining this movie, whether or not this movie was a success? Because that's my biggest worry, is does streaming equal a viable enough dollar amount to generate big budget movies? Is it bringing in that kind of dollar? that it can do that on its own? Or do you need theaters and that kind of revenue? I know, obviously, when you're running the streaming service, you get all the money, right? You don't have to, it eliminates the middleman. But are you generating enough subscriptions that it makes, how many like big budget movies can you make from that? How much choice are we going to have? You know what I mean? One of the things that I love is choice. And I love some of the smaller films that are making it to streaming services that you just know this is a film that would have been in an art house or something like that previously, and I may not have seen it, and I'm glad I am now, because I think those films have a chance for a wider reach because of streaming. I just get worried about blockbusters. Like, are we going to lose the amount of blockbusters that we're used to receiving? Because before, it used to be a blockbuster would be a risk you can take. And if a movie studio tanks on a blockbuster, you can recover from it. Are you able to in streaming? And that's interesting.
I don't know how they get paid on this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because when Hamilton came out and they streamed it on Disney Plus, you had to pay an extra to get Hamilton on top of the normal Disney Plus thing. So that's how they made their money off of it. With Suicide Squad, you didn't have to pay extra for it. It was just you have HBO Max, you have it.
Was Hamilton a Premier Access?
Yeah.
I thought that was part of the regular subscription.
I'm pretty sure it was Premier Access.
I'm not disputing you on that. I thought that one was part
I watched it on my sister's Disney Plus, so I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I don't know, but I always thought it was a Premier.
I thought that was this, and I'm not 100% sure, so I'm going to say that I thought that was one that was the big selling point was if you sign up for Disney Plus, you get Hamilton. Like that's, I don't remember that being a Premier Access. I might be wrong. I watched it on mine too. I don't remember paying. I'm one that will pay the Premier Access fee, so I do want a full disclosure for everybody listening off of that. So if you're right and it was Premier Access, I watched it because I paid the Premier Access price for it. But I don't remember paying it for that. But that doesn't mean that I'm not rock solid, as you can hear in my voice too. So it's an interesting one. But that's an interesting part because Premier Access gives you access for a certain amount of time. Then it becomes free for everybody. Or not free, you pay as part of your monthly subscription. So that's an interesting premium too, because Suicide Squad was not a premium on HBO. It was part of your subscription. So they did that with a number of movies. Like I saw Space Jam on it too. And then I saw the Angelina Jolie movie, and I'm sorry I'm drawing a blank on it because I really liked it. I watched In the Heights on HBO Max. All these things were movies that were first-run movies that came out day and date on HBO Max for a limited time. And I really liked that because, although In the Heights, I will say this, I wish I had seen In the Heights in the theater. I still can, but I mean, I wish I'd seen it for the first time in the theater because it was one of those big musicals, and I think I really liked it. And I think I would have liked it even more seeing it on the big screen, just because of the type of movie it was. I'm very toward over the whole streaming, direct to streaming platform thing, because my only concern is losing choice, losing options. I do think it's great that it offers people are in a wide variety of feelings, as I mentioned earlier, as far as COVID and feeling safe, and all of it's valid. So I'm glad there's an option for people to be able to, as families, sit down together, or even individually, sit down together and watch movies that maybe they aren't comfortable going to the theaters to see. So I'm glad there's a platform. I just want it to be, we know historically what generates sequels, what generates new concepts in a type of genre. It's how successful they are. If you can't determine if a movie was successful or not, how do you decide whether or not to greenlight more? So I hope there's a way for them, a metric that they're using to determine the success in this type of mixed platform. So that way we don't lose out when we're talking about how much we enjoyed this and we want a sequel. That's really where this is all coming from. How are they determining that in this weird hybrid? where you look at box office dollars and go, okay, did it do as well as Fast 9? Maybe not, but it's also day and date available on streaming services. So how do you compare the two? You know what I mean? It's an interesting sort of piece. Fast 9's, I'm using that one as an example. Fast 9 was considered a success in the theater because of what it did number-wise during the pandemic. But it's also now available for rent on digital platforms. So there's a premium, to pay. It's like, I think it's like $20 to rent. There's a difference between that rental, though, and butts and seats. And how many you're taking with you if you're taking a family to go see a movie or a date, and what you're spending on concession dollars and things like that for a theater. It's an interesting sort of time. I'm concerned for these movies that we're liking so much that are... Suicide Squad's a movie that's a little bit different. And I want more of these movies that are a little bit different. And I don't want to lose them because of the times that we're in currently. So... yeah. Because this was real... I'm protective of this because it's really well done.
It's a good, solid movie. Mm-hmm. Not just a good superhero movie. And I think that's the key. It could get very easily lost in the shuffle. And as you said, with what is this enough to warrant another movie like this? Is this warranted enough to give us the CGI special effects that we've got in this movie? Because that's part of the thing with these movies cost a lot of money because of the special effects. And you could lose that kind of that quality or that character, that level of movie if they don't start making money. If you got to, I don't want to say run it on the cheap because none of these movies are cheap, but they may say, hey, we're going to side away from that just because that's going to cost us too much. You think back the HBO TV series Rome was absolutely wonderful and brilliant, but it cost HBO too much money to make it. And they're like, you know what? This is a great movie. It's acclaimed, but it's costing us too much money to actually make it, and that's why they stopped doing the series. That kind of stuff will happen if we don't have this revenue stream coming in for these movies. And that's where I wonder with the streaming if that cuts into the revenue. It's kind of like, when you look at, and there's a whole other side, even topic on that is the movie theater itself industry. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the argument we say with digital comics versus paper comics, because digital comics are very easy and convenient for us. I like pulling up iZilla and reading my comics that way, but I'm also... my local shop down the street isn't getting a penny when I do that.
Right.
And how much are the creators getting when I'm buying a digital versus when I'm buying the paper? It's, there's a lot of questions that run into my mind about, we're kind of killing an industry, and I don't want to kill the comic book shop. Just like I don't want to kill the movie theater. It's one of those weird debates of what's going to happen. You said before, what's going to happen 5 years from now? What is this stuff going to look like? Are we going to have even movie theaters anymore? Are we going to have comic shops anymore? During the pandemic, drive-in movie theaters kind of made a slight comeback because people were like, hey, you can drive your car and just stay in your pod and watch a movie that way. But even that, it didn't survive post-COVID. Some places were opening up places where they could see movies that way, but they weren't. It's not a staple industry anymore.
Right, and that's where things are a little bit different. I get worried about, to your point about the industries kind of ending due to this. I'm very concerned about that. My wife and I went to Geneva on the Lake this past weekend, and I'll end with this. They have like little toy shops and things like that are there that are classic toys and comics and different things like that, old video games and vintage stuff. And as we were driving home, we passed a lot of shopping centers, and I was commenting on how many of them are filled with eateries now. Not that that's a bad thing. Restaurant choice is great too, but what I told her is I said, here's what's different. I said, I'm noticing more and more. And I think the Wizard Convention, which we didn't talk about, the Wizard Convention has now been bought up by Fan Expo, and there's no more Wizard Conventions. They're going to be, I think they're still doing their online conventions or their online experiences that they were doing, but they're closing the door on the actual physical conventions. This year's Wizard World Chicago is going to be the last one. That's it. Fan Expos bought them up, and 5 of the conventions that Wizard did previously, and I don't have them in front of me, Wizard World Chicago is one of them, though, because it's one of their biggest. 5 of Wizard World's conventions will continue under Fan Expo. They actually bought the convention itself and will be continuing those conventions. But it's the end of an era. It's under the Ian Levinstein mentioned this on the Comic Geek Speak thread, that it's the end of an era, and I couldn't have put it better. Just thinking back to not when we started podcasting, even before we started podcasting, going to Wizard conventions, and it was a true comic convention. Back and how it evolved into more of a celebrity-focused convention, and just that was kind of the writing on the wall of the convention scene changing as Wizard morphed, trying to figure out a way to monetize. And I'm sad to see those go, because so many great years and great memories of the Wizard conventions. But circling back to this, kind of comic shops and things. As I was driving home, I was commenting to my wife how many shopping centers were passing that don't have little shops that I would stop off at. I said, which used to be a thing for me. I loved stopping at little mom and pop shops and things like that, and almost always bought something. We were at Geneva on the Lake. I bought things at both shops I went into, and because I like those shops. I like supporting them. I will admit, to your point about where, because of using more digital platforms and things, what I buy in the shops is different now. But I still love swag. They usually carry, the nice thing about comic shops or toy shops or whatever, the hybrid shops that you see out there, game shops, they typically carry a lot of different product to meet the needs of a lot of different people to adapt and survive changing markets. So a lot of the owners are very clever people who have recognized the need over the years to diversify to stay afloat. And I love them for it, because every time I walk in, there's always something I want, which is great for their business, because I like popping into their shops. I like supporting them. But you're right. How I shop is different now. And I don't want those shops to be any less viable than they were before. I applaud the owners that are trying to adapt to changing times that are kind of hard to plan for, because especially now with the pandemic, you're trying to guess not only what kind of things people are interested in now, but what kind of things they'll go out to a shop for. And that's a tricky situation. It's not as easy as it used. Not that it was ever easy for them, and I'm not. That's no disrespect to the amount of effort it goes into be a good shop owner in pop culture medium, but I think part of and it's what movies are going through now, right? What is a streaming movie versus what is a movie that will drive people to theaters, in light of health concerns and things like that, so that way they can be profitable. What are products that you can carry in your store that will bring people to your store with some regularity, so that way you can count on continued profit. It's a tough sort of time right now, and I applaud any shop owners that are looking at and taking chances to try and make changes to try and figure that out at a time where I don't know that you can ask a consumer, they can give you an answer to that. Like if I walked into a store right now and they were to ask me what would bring you in every week, I don't know that I have a good answer. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I would basically look at them and say, I want to come in every week, and I want you to excite me to come in every week. I can't give you a good answer on what I could say to you that would not only bring me in, but bring in lots of other people. For me, I'll go in because you're here. But that's not necessarily drawing somebody in every week. I'm talking about as I'm traveling about. I see a shop, I'm like, I want to go in and look around. I like that. I mean, I'm into that sort of thing. So you got me from just being there. But you really need people that are your ongoing weekly traffic, and what is going to draw people in for that. Besides your people that are still using the physical, which is great. There's a vast audience that is exclusively physical still. And that's great, but there's a digital hybrid audience, which I fall into the digital hybrid category. I like some of my paper, I like some of my digital, and I've got that has adapted and evolved every year, and that's going to continue to adapt and evolve. I'm hoping for just more things to make going to shops exciting. And I think the shop owners need help with product, as far as unique product that is going to bring people in a unique way to the shop. Give me something that I have to go to the shop for. And they need help with that. They need your publishers and manufacturers and things to be delivering incentives that make the shop experience more viable. Also, events, like I would love to start going more for signings and things like that, and invariably that brings me in. I want to go in and I shop. I don't just go in and get something signed. I go in, get something signed, I buy something, I walk out. You know what I mean? So that's good for a shop. And you can't do that real well in pandemic. So I get worried about all that stuff. I think, I think you touched on something there that it's a whole topic we could delve into for probably a couple hours. And I don't want to go crazy with it, but I think our worries for movie theaters and movie theater experiences is the same as for comic shops, is the same for just a wide variety of things right now. And I applaud shop owners and creators and creatives that are trying to find ways to navigate this.
And Snickers agrees with you.
Yeah, she's ready to. She's being the big bad wolf in the background, trying to like huff and puff and knock the door down. Because it's been like 3 hours of recording, and she's like, "Guys, it's time.
It's time. Come on."
Now I can get out of here.
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We actually have a voicemail that we're going to be airing on our next episode. I'm saving it just because of the length of this particular episode. So please, if you want to join us and be part of the show, feel free to call in. RagingBullets.com is our show website. RagingBullets@gmail.com is our show email address. If you prefer to contact us that way. Our website does feed into Twitter and our Facebook fan page. We are proud to be part of an amazing Facebook group community, and we're getting new members now. We're seeing people start to trickle in, and it's great. Please consider joining that. It's a great place. I go there for all my news and commentary because what ends up happening is people post about things they've seen on blogs, things that they've seen released by DC officially, things that they've seen all around pop culture and comics that are relevant topics. And you're getting immediate reactions and immediate thoughts and immediate news. And I really love all the people there that post because it's always a safe and fun dialogue. It is my news source. I go there first. And I don't say that lightly. It's because I trust the people there. And trust that their intentions are to just deliver really cool stuff. So I really appreciate everyone that posts there. About Us section of our show website, and it's always in our show notes, is a great way to link to us on a wide variety of gaming platforms and social media. Sponsoring us this episode, as always, is DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Aquaman and Green Arrow Deep Targets 7-issue miniseries, 50% off, only $1.99. And we have the Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hardcover omnibus, 50% off, only $49.99. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, we have The Fourth World by John Byrne Omnibus Hardcover. And I'm excited for this. As I mentioned on episode 601, I shared a lot of the foundations of where I became a fan of these characters. Really excited to read this because this is material I have not read. $75 regularly, 42% off, only $43.50. This is at a time where my budget didn't match being able to follow these characters, and I've always been interested. Omnibuses rock. Super excited for this. Thank you, DCB Service and InStockTrades.com, for continuing to support our show. Our next episode, Jim and I are going to be back talking about comics. We're going to do a catch-up on the Catwoman series. I've been digging that a lot. And also, we're going to chat about the most recent issue of Infinite Frontier with some news about Robin that I think is worth talking about. I'd like to talk about the story and how we feel about the story itself, but I want to talk about that book in general. So we're going to talk about all the stories contained within that particular issue, and we will see everyone next week.
Bye!
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim?
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't
What
mean
are you
anything
trying
by
to say?
that.
I think
Sean,
you're going to
Jim,
I don't know
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's